It all starts with a girl changing her outfit, totally complaining about how incredibly inconvenient and tight that skirt is. Right then, Xiaoto shows up in her brand new attire, looking completely embarrassed, and asks Yi-jung if she seriously needs to wear those black stockings. Even though she admits the outfit is way better for moving around than her usual clothes, she confesses that wearing it makes her feel super self-conscious. Cool as a cucumber, Yi-jung reassures her that their old clothes were terrible for running long distances, and that this outfit is perfect, immediately asking if everything is ready for their big escape tonight. While she checks the bag filled with his absolute favorite snacks, the young man has to remind her that they are running for their lives, not heading out for a cozy Sunday picnic. But the girl just shows off her excitement, proudly flashing the little wedding figurines Yi-jung gave her, calling them her most precious treasure in the world. With a heavy sigh, he realizes she took all that time just to look for those figurines and warns her that, if they are finally ready, they need to move out fast. Flashing back to the past, Yi-jung remembers standing before a super crowded recruitment area in the cultivation world. A flashy, eye-catching recruiter approaches the young guy, praises his looks, and asks if he has any interest in joining the Heewon sect. Surprised to find out there is actually a faction that does not care about natural talent, our main character accepts and joins right then and there. After joining the sect, he figured out how everything worked and realized he just wanted to focus on his training, but his peace did not last long because a massive war soon broke out between the groups. Being nothing more than an outer disciple with zero powerful backing, he ended up getting sent straight to the front lines to serve as absolute shield fodder in the battles. A few months ago, during a critical mission, he got seriously messed up and passed out, only to be saved by a sweet country girl named Xiaoto. He started living at her place to recover, got totally used to that simple, quiet life, and did not feel like returning to that chaotic sect even once. Suddenly, a heavy spiritual pressure completely takes over the area, making Yi-jung instinctively back away in shock. Up in the sky, gigantic projections of beasts and mythical warriors are brutally clashing, proving that when it comes to war, absolutely nobody gets a free pass to sit it out. Terrified by how close the danger is getting, he tells Xiaoto to pack her bags immediately, because they are leaving that very night. Already sprinting through the forest while holding the girl's hand, he confesses that he does not care about immortality anymore. He just wants to take her far away so they can live together. Noticing his face turning bright red in the dark, Xiaoto excitedly comments that is the first time she has ever seen him like this. But he quickly changes the subject and tells her to pick up the pace. As they keep running, she asks if they will ever be able to go back home, and Yi-jung promises her that as long as they are together, anywhere can be their home. Diving deep into his thoughts, our MC remembers that he is actually a reincarnated soul, but his cheat system never actually activated properly, leaving him completely baffled in the beginning. As soon as he arrived in this world, he tried to enter various factions, but a woman warned him that his natural talent was total garbage and told him to get lost. In another attempt, a massive, muscular fighter rejected him on the spot, claiming the young man's physical build was way too weak for serious training. Completely frustrated and getting the door slammed in his face everywhere, he questioned what the point of traveling to a cultivation world even was if he was not allowed to cultivate. Cutting back to their escape in the dark forest, their frantic running is brutally interrupted by an authoritative voice, commanding them to stop right there. Standing right in front of them, looking totally imposing, is Bai Ningbing, the master of the Jade Maiden sect, radiating an incredibly oppressive aura. One of her disciples instantly recognizes Yi-jung as a member of the enemy sect and asks the master if they should just finish him off on the spot. With a freezing cold glare, the leader raises her hand and tells her follower to wait a moment before doing anything drastic. Without a single warning, a lightning fast strike hits Yi-jung right in the face. From the sheer impact, the young man gets violently slammed into the dirt, letting out a cry of pain as he desperately tries to pull himself back together. Staring down at the fallen young man from head to toe, Bai Ningbing warns him that she might spare his life if he reveals the enemy sect's next big move. Bleeding out on the ground, he thinks the whole thing is an absolute joke and replies that a low-level cultivator like him would never be trusted with major plans. Realizing these women are totally desperate, that sarcastic reply does not please the sect master at all, and she just lets out a disgruntled scoff, turning her face away in annoyance. Taking the cue, a blonde disciple says the master does not need to stress herself out and begs for permission to take care of this absolute trash, receiving immediate approval. Panicking entirely, Xiaoto runs forward to shield the young man, crying and begging them not to hurt him, promising them that he is a truly good person. Watching the whole scene with pure malice, the disciple mocks the deep affection the country girl is showing for him. In a totally cruel and merciless move, the blonde girl pierces right through the poor girl with a direct energy strike. Witnessing that absolute atrocity, Yejung's eyes widen in a mix of pure shock and total despair. Seeing Xiaodo's body collapse onto the cold forest floor, the young man screams her name with every single bit of strength he has left. Crawling through the dirt, he cries and questions why they would do something so horrible to someone who had absolutely nothing to do with their conflict. Holding his beloved's body in his arms, Yejung glares at the attacker with pure, unadulterated hatred, demanding to know the reason behind this terrible act. Finding his anger totally amusing, the woman replies that anyone associated with that wretched sect deserves a tragic end, threatening to give him only one more chance to spill what he knows. Instead of answering, the young man musters up whatever strength he has left and spits right at the enemy to show his absolute disgust. Consumed by rage, he curses her twisted logic and states loud and clear that even if he did know something, he would never say a single word to them. That bold defiance completely infuriates the disciple, who immediately lands a brutal strike right across Yejung's face using the sheath of her sword. Unable to defend himself, our MC takes another violent hit that makes him howl in pain as he gets severely injured, all under the arrogant gaze of his enemy. Lying flat on his stomach and losing consciousness, he curses those women who claim to be part of a righteous and honorable faction. Already turning her back on the scene, the sect leader instructs her disciples that to eliminate evil, sometimes you have to take extreme measures. Right after that, the followers bow in deep respect and confirm that they perfectly understood their master's lesson. To finish the job, the blonde girl stomps hard right on the fallen young man's back, telling that useless trash to disappear for good. In his final moments of awareness, Yejung swears that if there is a next life, he will not let either of those two escape unpunished. At that exact millisecond, the hidden system detects the host's intense obsession and attempts to activate, but it notices the critical failure in his body and launches a complete repair protocol. The scene changes drastically, now showing the busy outside view of the Hewon sect's frontline fortress. Waking up with a start in a bed, Yejung opens his eyes, feeling totally disoriented by his new surroundings. Sitting up on the mattress and looking around, he is completely clueless, asking himself where on earth he is, since he was absolutely certain he had lost his life. A soft female voice echoes through the room, calling him junior brother, and celebrating that he is finally awake, making the young man recognize the familiar tone instantly. The owner of the voice reveals herself to be his senior sister, who approaches him with very obvious intentions, saying it is finally time for him to test out the sect's special techniques with her. As she tries to touch him to check on his wounds, Yejung remembers that this woman is notorious for her cruelty, and getting involved with her is a complete point of no return. Trying to buy some time, the young man gently holds her hands and tells her there is absolutely no rush, quickly changing the subject to ask how the war is going, only to receive news of a massive victory. Super excited, the woman explains that the enemy leader who tried to pull off a sneaky surprise attack yesterday ended up getting completely crushed by their own master. The senior sister keeps spilling the details, revealing that the invading faction was entirely wiped out and all their valuable resources were confiscated. Processing all this information, Yejung is totally shaken to hear that the enemy leader was cornered, and he starts wondering how on earth he managed to survive the terrible wounds he suffered. Gritting his teeth as hard as he can, he feels a wild wave of conflicting emotions washing over his entire body. Driven by those horrible memories, he decides to rush out of the room, thinking this is the perfect opportunity to put a definitive end to the woman who ruined his life. However, before he can even cross the doorway, a hand firmly grabs his shoulder, putting a sudden stop to his escape. Pulling him into a tight embrace from behind, the senior sister warns him with a blushing face not to run away, since they still haven't finished discussing their private business in the bedroom. Unable to break free, the young guy is dragged right back into the darkness of the room, while the woman whispers to him not to worry, because it won't hurt a bit. Wrapping her arms completely around him, she promises in a dangerous tone that even his final moments will be filled with pure bliss, leaving him totally panicking. Breaking out into a cold sweat, he realizes his current cultivation level is way too low, and that he will easily be drained by her, lamenting that he can't even survive after being reborn. At that absolute critical moment, a glowing screen pops up in midair, announcing that the system repair is complete and congratulating the user for awakening a brand new feature. Totally stunned by this sudden update appearing out of nowhere, our MC looks over his shoulder, trying to process what is happening. Still trapped in the senior sister's grasp, he reads the name of the personality correction system to figure out how this thing is going to help him escape. The panel quickly explains that its main goal is to create a harmonious environment by forcefully reforming anyone who harbors bad intentions toward the host, handing out awesome rewards in the process. Taking advantage of his distraction, the woman forcefully pushes Ye Jung down, asking in a provocative tone why he suddenly stopped fighting back. While the screen displays all the dangerous stats of this obsessed senior sister, she celebrates victoriously, claiming she knew deep down that he wanted this experience just as much as she did. Totally confused by the young man's sudden shift in attitude, the senior sister asks why on earth he is acting like this all of a sudden. In his head, Ye Jung curses the system for taking so long to show up, but he instantly focuses on his enemy and furiously demands that she submit to him. At that exact moment, magical chains materialize out of nowhere and wrap tightly around the woman's body, leaving her completely shocked. Getting violently pulled up into the air, she panics, demanding to know what kind of absurd technique this is. Unable to resist the powerful force binding her, the senior sister can only beg the young man to stop what he is doing. Watching the scene with a bitter expression, our MC secretly laments that if this power had awakened just a little bit sooner, his savior might still be alive. Clenching his fists in the dark, the pain of his recent loss transforms into a silent, burning rage. Right after that, a massive digital portal opens up inside the bedroom, and he decides to step through the glowing passageway without a single shred of hesitation. Crossing the threshold, the young man finds himself in a dark corridor lined with heavy bars. Wondering if this place is some kind of virtual system prison, the interface quickly informs him that the cells are currently sealed shut, and that certain conditions must be met before they can be used. Reaching the main area, he finds the senior sister hanging from the chains, and she demands to know what kind of magical artifact was used to trap her there. Completely ignoring the prisoner's loud protests, Ye Jung focuses on the glowing blue screen and asks how to claim the rewards from this place. The system quickly explains that he can use this space to reform the prisoner's corrupted personality, and the deeper the change, the grander his prize will be. Terrified by his cold demeanor, the woman starts crying and begs to know what is going to happen to her, while two floating options appear in midair. Analyzing the choices, our MC realizes that a direct, punitive refinement can rapidly boost his cultivation and even grant him a special technique. Annoyed by his silence, the woman demands that he stop ignoring her, while the system details that a complete reform would transform her into a fiercely loyal ally and grant way better rewards. Pondering over the options, the young man admits that the top-tier rewards are indeed incredibly tempting, but, stepping forward in a totally threatening way, he warns her that he has zero time to waste trying to fix the behavior of someone like her. Pointing his finger directly at the prisoner, he decides it is way better to use her as a sacrifice to instantly boost his own strength. At that exact moment, swords made of pure light launch straight toward her, making the senior sister scream in absolute, hopeless terror. Sobbing uncontrollably, the woman begs for her life, promising that she is willing to become a mere servant if he just forgives her. Right then, the beams of energy strike the prisoner dead on, starting the punishment process with zero mercy. However, a flashing red alert pops up on the screen, warning him that other cultivators are rapidly approaching, accompanied by an aggressive voice from outside ordering everyone to get out. Having absolutely no choice, the system forces our MC's consciousness back into the real world, leaving him incredibly frustrated by the terrible timing of the interruption. Back inside the virtual prison, the glowing swords vanish, leaving the senior sister hanging in the dark as she desperately tries to catch her breath. Trembling from head to toe, the woman murmurs with relief that she survived, completely oblivious to the fact that the panel now shows her personality is already 50% reformed. In the real world, the bedroom door is violently kicked open by a warrior who scolds him for taking so long, reminding him that the front lines need urgent reinforcements. Stepping into the room, the intruder finds it strange to only see the young guy there and immediately demands to know where senior sister Feng is. Still recovering from the sudden transition, Ye Jung lets out a sigh while trying to cook up a quick excuse. Hiding his tension, he replies that the woman found an isolated spot to cultivate in complete seclusion, hoping the lie will be enough to get him off the hook. Not caring about his excuses at all, the warrior grabs our MC's arm and drags him outside, stating that they just need warm bodies to fill the ranks anyway. Right after that, the young man is flown through the air alongside a whole battalion of disciples, heading straight toward the active conflict zone. During the flight, the commander explains that their mission is crystal clear: capture the master of the Jade Maiden sect, Bai Ningbing. He reports that just last night, that woman's forces managed to wipe out almost all of their allied invaders in a brutal clash. With the news that the rival leader is currently cornered inside a cave awaiting the final siege, Ye Jung's face twists into a dark, grim look, absolutely eager for his revenge. Arriving at the destination, the squad lands in a rocky canyon where dozens of other sect members have already gathered. An elder shouts orders to the crowd, commanding everyone to form lines and wait for further instructions. Among the low-level extras, the mood is pure discontent, with many whispering that this organization feels like a one-way line straight to a slaughterhouse. Others, however, are overflowing with arrogance, making nasty comments about what they plan to do to the famous enemy beauty as soon as she is captured. At that moment, the system quietly notifies him that the partial reform of the virtual prisoner is complete, releasing a portion of the promised reward. A powerful aura instantly wraps around the young man's body, indicating that his cultivation has just leaped straight to the 5th stage of body forging. Blown away by the sudden glow, the guy standing next to him praises his sudden breakthrough, while Ye Jung plays it cool, saying it was just the excitement for the upcoming battle. But on the inside, our MC is totally confused, since he didn't do a single thing to make the senior sister reach 50% correction progress so fast. His train of thought is cut short by a loud shout echoing through the valley, ordering everyone to shut their mouths immediately. From a high platform, the sect members bow in deep respect, announcing the majestic arrival of Grand Master Xiao. Radiating a crushing purple energy, the sect master hovers in the air, proving the absolute dominance of a golden core cultivator. Feeling the terrifying pressure in the air, all the subordinates whisper quietly among themselves, completely awestruck by the presence of this ancient powerhouse. With a calm gesture, the veteran raises his hand and tells his followers to skip the formalities. Promptly, the elder in charge thanks the leader for showing up and immediately begins organizing the preparations. Passing out small, reddish pills to the crowd, a female advisor claims that this miraculous medicine was specially crafted to ensure the total success of the operation. Staring down at the pill in the palm of his hand, Ye Jung keeps a completely straight face, highly suspicious of the true motives behind this free handout. Knowing the shady nature of this faction all too well, he is absolutely certain something is wrong with it, while his teammate urges him to swallow it quickly so they can lead the invasion. High up on the ravine, the Supreme Master looks down on his troops with a gaze of pure superiority. Determined not to be played for a fool, our MC brings his hand to his face, completely faking swallowing the medicine just to avoid raising any red flags. Taking the floor, the leader announces in a booming voice that the enemy is already severely wounded inside her hiding spot. He rallies the warriors, promising that a joint attack during her moment of weakness will bring them definitive victory. Driven by the promise of glory, the disciples recklessly prepare to charge forward. Completely under the influence of the pill, the men sprint forward with their eyes glowing blood red, driven absolutely wild by the desire to capture the rival leader. Running right behind them, the young man confirms his suspicions when he sees the beast-like state of his companions, concluding that the medicine dangerously alters the mind. Storming into the cave, the mob finally spots Bai Ningbing at the very back of the cavern, and their battle cry echoes off the stone walls. Sitting down and visibly exhausted, the enemy leader remains completely motionless as the enraged horde rushes straight toward her. One of the attackers leaps through the air, arrogantly declaring that he is going to capture her and tame her once and for all. But the woman just opens her eyes with pure disgust, utterly insulted that the rival sect sent such insignificant trash to annoy her. With a simple flick of her hand, a massive blade of green energy slices through the inside of the cave at an incredible speed. Demonstrating her unshakable authority, the beauty keeps a perfectly steady posture as she unleashes that devastating wave of power. Caught totally off guard by the counterattack, the frontline attacker barely has time to process what is happening before getting blasted. In a fraction of a second, multiple warriors are completely swept away by the crushing pressure, getting violently hurled across the rocky cavern. Protected by the distance at the entrance of the tunnel, Ye Jung watches from a safe hiding spot as his companions meet an instant end. Evaluating the situation coldly, he concludes that stepping into that attack radius would be pure suicide, not believing for a single second that this woman is anywhere near defeat. However, just as she lowers her guard, the sect master notices that the fallen bodies are starting to swell and glow in a terrifying way. Too late to react, she finally realizes the true trap laid out by the enemy faction. A colossal explosion swallows the cave, triggered by the violent reaction of the pills inside the defeated henchmen's bodies. Taking the devastating impact at point-blank range, Bai Ningbing collapses to her knees on the ground, completely covered in severe injuries, trembling in pain and trying to support herself. The leader is totally stunned by the fact that they would use their own soldiers as explosive tactics. Coughing uncontrollably in the middle of the smoke, she covers her face as a sharp dizziness hits her, realizing that this mist isn't just dust, but something incredibly poisonous. Outside the toxic cloud, an elder asks if they should draw the net now, but the leader tells them to wait, because that explosion was just the beginning. With pure arrogance, the old master explains that the blood mist left behind by the bodies is loaded with a special toxin from their sect. Sitting on the ground, Bai Ningbing begins to pant heavily, as the effects of the smoke penetrate deep into her system. The leader realizes with absolute alarm that an uncontrollable fever is rapidly taking over her entire body. Hidden away in the shadows, Yejung watches the scene with pure disgust as he figures out his superior's true strategy. Analyzing the battlefield, our MC concludes that the pill wasn't just meant to explode, but to spread that treacherous poison through the air. But the beauty suddenly detects a presence nearby and demands to know who is lurking in the dark. Realizing he has been spotted, the young man tries to back away, while the woman questions if he really thought he could hide from her. In the blink of an eye, Bai Ningbing lunges forward and grabs him by the throat, completely surprised to recognize that the tiny insect from yesterday was somehow still alive. Gasping for air, he curses the cruel methods of his own faction and mentally asks the system if he can capture someone this hostile. The interface informs him that her animosity level is currently at only 50%, while the woman threatens to put a permanent end to him right there. Needing to buy time and push her hatred all the way to 100%, the guy decides to provoke her, asking if the Great Master can now only take out her anger on a complete nobody. He continues the mockery, throwing it in her face that all her subordinates were defeated, suggesting she should just surrender if she is that afraid of the end. Completely enraged by his audacity, the woman tells him to shut up and violently flings him away with a blast of green energy. Consumed by rage, she rants against the betrayal she suffered and questions with absolute indignation how she could have reached such a pathetic state. Vowing revenge against everyone who crossed her, the warrior warns that she will start her massacre by eliminating this literal worm. While she prepares a fatal strike, the system warns him that her hostility has risen to 90%, which is still not enough for a successful capture. Having absolutely nowhere to run, the young guy can only widen his eyes at the imminent danger. A massive storm of green energy is fired straight at him, destroying absolutely everything in its path. Suddenly, the leader's hand begins to shake uncontrollably, making her completely unable to hold her own weapon. The magical sword slips right out of her fingers and clatters onto the cave floor. Shielding his face from the residual impact, Yejung feels incredibly frustrated for being so close to the required mark, but still unable to use his ability. The heavy blade hits the rocks, echoing loudly through the empty space. Our MC watches the scene completely baffled, seeing his enemy drop her guard like that. Losing her imposing posture, the woman murmurs in utter confusion, not understanding why all her strength suddenly vanished out of nowhere. The poison hits its absolute peak, making the sect master complain about an unbearable heat while completely losing her focus. Succumbing to the effects of the enemy toxin, she collapses to her knees on the ground, completely unable to keep herself upright. Outside, the elder comments excitedly that the proud Bai Ningbing has finally given in and can no longer resist the substance. The old master agrees and decides to wait just a bit longer, planning to step in only when she is totally vulnerable to take full advantage of the situation. Right then, an agonizing scream echoes from the depths of the dark cave. Completely dominated by the chemical effect, the woman twists on the stone floor, fighting against her own mind. Taking advantage of her distraction, a powerful aura unexpectedly wraps around our MC's body. Shocked by the sudden change, the young man notices that in no time at all, his cultivation level skyrocketed straight to the 9th stage. Radiating a glowing green light, the leader tries to regain her composure, showing that her sacred physique possesses insane recovery abilities. An incredibly awkward silence hangs in the air as both of them try to process the absolute madness that just took place. Trying to justify himself, Yejung points out that she is a high-level cultivator, and that all the blame for this embarrassing situation lies solely on her. He reminds her that the power gap between them was massive, and that he was basically just used as a tool for her to relieve the pain of the poison. That explanation doesn't help at all, and the sect master glares at him with a death stare loaded with pure fury and deep shame. Driven by hatred, She reaches out her hand and grips the hilt of her fallen sword. Standing up with great difficulty, the warrior warns him that no matter what happened here, she is still going to end his life. The second she leaps forward for the fatal attack, the system finally beeps, confirming her resentment has hit 100%, unlocking the capture feature. The blue panel displays all the stats of the great leader, detailing her incredibly high cultivation level and her ruthless personality. But immediately an error message pops up, informing him that there is 0 space left in the virtual prison, sending our MC into a total panic. Pressed by certain doom, he shouts at the interface to release the previous prisoner immediately and confirms the swap. In the blink of an eye, the woman who was locked up in the system is expelled back into the real world, leaving Bei Ningbing completely baffled by her sudden appearance. Instantly, magical chains burst from the ground and wrap around the warrior's body before she can even react. With a firm gesture, Ye Zheng orders the system to transport the new target straight to the containment area. Pulled by an irresistible force, the leader is sucked inside the glowing portal completely against her will. Now safe inside the virtual space, the young man takes a deep breath, feeling the heavy weight of exhaustion after escaping by a hair. But that relief quickly turns into a triumphant expression as he realizes he has finally captured the very person who ruined his life. Inside the dark interior of the system prison, dozens of containment tools decorate the freezing cold walls. Bound firmly to a heavy wooden frame, the proud master panics as she notices that all her spiritual power has been completely blocked. Approaching her calmly, our MC tells her to stop fighting because inside this place, he has absolute control over everything. Trying to break free from the locks, the woman demands to know who he really is and what kind of dark sorcery this is. To shut the prisoner up, the young man lands a heavy strike on the wood right next to her face, causing a massive bang. Gripping the leader's chin roughly, he makes it crystal clear that her position has completely changed and she has 0 right to ask questions. Right then, the panel displays the rewards for reforming that woman's behavior, including a massive leap in power and a rare special skill. Reading through the prize list, he admits the system is incredibly generous when dealing with such a powerful target. Determined to speed up the process, he materializes a punishment artifact right in his hand. With a cold look focused entirely on the results, Ye Zheng concludes that he will need to apply strict discipline methods if he wants to claim all that power. Cornered against the wooden frame, the former master just turns her face away, feeling a mix of deep fear and intense humiliation. Before the session can even begin, an emergency alert pops up warning him that intruders are approaching, making the young man curse his terrible luck. In the physical world, purple magic strikes the entrance of the cave with full force. The impact completely destroys the stone barrier, clearing the path for daylight to stream into the dark hiding spot. Walking through the dust of the explosion, the leaders of the enemy sect finally storm the hideout. Stepping in triumphantly, the old master mocks out loud, asking if Fairy Ningbing has been waiting for a very long time. Monitoring everything through the screen from inside the system, Ye Zheng realizes his situation in the real world is completely compromised. His consciousness snaps back to his physical body right in the middle of the cavern, noticing that the only exit has been completely blocked by the invaders. With absolutely 0 escape routes available, he concentrates his energy and decides he will fight until the bitter end. However, the excessive effort takes its toll, and he spits out blood, feeling the internal damage of his highly unstable condition. The purple energy fades from the room, clearly revealing the aftermath of the chaos. The sect veterans suddenly halt, staring at the scene in front of them in complete, stunned silence. Stammering, one of the elders reports to the leader that their henchmen turned to dust, and that only 2 people are left alive inside. To everyone's absolute surprise, the girl lying on the ground isn't the major enemy they were looking for, but rather the disciple who had vanished. Still dazed by the sudden transition, the woman kicked out of the system screams in terror as she finds herself surrounded by all her superiors at the exact same time. Utterly confused by what is going on, the sect master stomps firmly on the ground, stating with absolute conviction that it is impossible for Bai Ningbing to escape his trap. Glaring down at the fallen woman with a threatening look, he demands to know exactly where the enemy leader hid, but the senior sister only replies in sheer terror that she knows absolutely nothing. Right then, one of the elders approaches, telling the leader to calm down, suggesting they perform a thorough search of the area since the enemy could have very well been turned to dust in the explosions. Deep in thought, the elder soon begins to suspect that maybe the rival master used some kind of high-level technique to disguise her appearance. That idea highly pleases the Grand Master, who lets out an evil laugh that echoes through the entire cave, Convinced by the theory, he points at the woman on the floor, calling her by the enemy's name and questioning how long she plans to fake it. Promising she can't fool him. Acting totally roughly, the veteran rips away part of the prisoner's clothes with a hard tug, determined to expose the fake. Watching the scene play out, the elder is completely speechless and tries to step in, asking what the leader is trying to do, and if he seriously hasn't realized the mistake yet. Ignoring the warning entirely, the Supreme Master locks his eyes on the girl and loudly decrees that she is absolutely Bai Ningbing in disguise. Desperate, the senior sister tries to explain herself, claiming she is just a regular disciple, but the leader mocks her, saying her intense aura of charm proves she was affected by their special powder. Refusing to listen to her excuses, that this is just their sect's standard technique, the master claims it doesn't matter whether she admits it or not. While the elder points to the fallen boy at the back, reminding him that there is a living witness. Turning her face in the direction he pointed, the woman recognizes Yi Jung instantly and flies into a total rage. Blaming the young man for this entire humiliating situation, she charges straight at him, looking for absolute payback. Before she can even get close, the sect master pins her to the ground with a crushing aura, asking arrogantly if she seriously thinks she can threaten or plot with the witness right in front of him. Right after that, the elder stops next to Ye Jung, who is lying on the rocks, and tells the surviving brat to wake up, while the young man lets out a groan of pain. Brutally grabbing the injured young man's face, the elder forces him to lift his head up. Coughing a bit, Ye Jung thanks him for the help, and the old man demands that he explain exactly what went down inside the cave. Seizing the perfect chance, our MC lies, saying that as soon as he stepped inside, he saw everyone explode, and that the enemy leader got severely injured by the impact. With a highly calculating look, he takes a dramatic pause to perfectly set up the conclusion of his story. Lying right through his teeth, he claims that immediately afterward, the enemy changed her face to take on that exact appearance, which makes the Grand Master burst out laughing with joy, celebrating that his intuition was right. Highly satisfied with the result, the leader orders them to take the prisoner away to be sealed, promising to turn her into a mere cultivation vessel in the future. As she gets forcefully dragged away, the woman glares at the young man with pure hatred, swearing revenge, but he just gives a smirk, finding the punishment totally fair. With the mission wrapped up, the veteran turns his back and decides everyone needs to head back quickly to the frontline base, since the rival faction is no longer a threat. However, the elder asks them to wait a moment, remembering a very critical detail. Staring closely at Yi Jung with deep suspicion, he asks how it was possible for this kid to survive when every single other person who took the pill met a tragic end. Breaking out into a cold sweat from the heavy pressure, the young man gulps, realizing the suspicion has fallen entirely on him, and that he needs to invent an urgent excuse. Faking extreme weakness, he tells them that he felt a sharp pain after taking the medicine, but ended up getting flung away by a strike from the enemy leader, and when he woke up, his strength had bizarrely skyrocketed. Analyzing the kid's cultivation, the elder confirms the massive power leap and concludes that he must have a highly resistant constitution to chemicals, suggesting the alchemy hall is in desperate need of a test subject for potions. Letting out a sinister chuckle, the old man presents this wicked idea to the sect leader. Thinking the plan is absolutely perfect, the Grand Master agrees with the suggestion and firmly grips Yi Jung's shoulder. With a completely fake smile, the leader declares that from this day forward, the young man will be his personal disciple, leaving him totally surprised by this fake honor. Without wasting a single second, Ye Jung drops to his knees showing immense gratitude and swears absolute loyalty, while the elder tells him to get up so they can return to base as quickly as possible. Keeping his head low, our MC knows perfectly well that those two old men are up to no good, but he decides to play along since his #1 priority right now is staying alive. Soon, the group takes flight, slicing through the skies across the rocky canyons toward the camp. Their destination is the frontline fortress, specifically the sect's massive alchemy hall. In the main courtyard, an enormous cauldron burns continuously with bright flames, processing the faction's magical creations. Once inside the hall, the old master warns him that as a personal disciple, the young man will have a special task to take care of immediately, which only raises Yi Jung's suspicions. Overflowing with fake friendliness, the young guy asks the master to give his orders, promising total dedication, though on the inside, he is planning to run away at the very first opportunity. Delighted by his submission, the leader warns him that he won't be going easy on him and shoves his hand inside his robes. Pulling out a handful of bizarre pills, he orders the kid to swallow all of them at once, leaving the young man completely shocked. Staring down at the glowing green spheres on the table, Yejung tries to dodge it, saying his cultivation is way too low for such valuable items, but the master mocks him, reminding him of that special resistance of his. Evaluating this terrible situation, our MC finally figures out that the title of disciple was just a cheap excuse to turn him into a living human cauldron for testing. Stammering and taking a step back, he hesitates heavily, which makes the veteran ask in a threatening tone if the kid had lied about his resistance inside the cave. Slamming his hand hard on the table, the master warns him about the severe consequences of deceiving his superiors, forcing Yejung to act fast to avoid getting exposed. Having absolutely no way to escape the trap, he picks up one of the pills and decides to swallow it, hoping that whatever this thing is, it won't completely finish him off. Excited for the experiment, the master instructs the kid to eat the potions one by one, so he can meticulously take notes on every single reaction. Time passes painfully as Yejung swallows the toxic items under the watchful eye of his superior, wondering how on earth he is going to keep fooling the old man for much longer. Suddenly, a violent bang echoes through the walls of the hall, startling the sect leader. A disciple bursts into the room, running to warn them that the enemy forces have returned to attack the base, leaving the old man absolutely furious at the terrible timing. Seizing the absolute perfect cue, our MC encourages the master to go handle the conflict outside, promising that he will continue the testing all by himself. Suspecting absolutely nothing, the veteran agrees and tells the kid to focus entirely on his meditation, immediately calling all warriors to battle right after. The absolute second he is left alone, Yejung lets out a massive sigh of relief, celebrating his incredible luck, fully aware that the chaos outside is the ideal opportunity to escape. Looking at the shelves packed with rare flasks, he decides he is not going to leave empty-handed and plans to loot everything that has any value. To speed up the job, the young man opens the system's blue screen and triggers the command to release his most famous prisoner. In a flash of digital light, Bai Ningbing materializes right in the middle of the hall, looking totally disoriented. Staring down at her own hands, the beauty smiles with relief, thinking she finally managed to escape that hellish environment. But her joy is incredibly short-lived when the young man pops up right behind her, coldly warning her not to get any false hopes about freedom in this lifetime. Handing an empty sack to the woman, he orders her to help search for every single useful item in the room, telling her to completely ignore the problematic toxins. Flashing a heavy containment collar around her neck, the warrior crosses her arms in total annoyance, and replies that she knows absolutely nothing about alchemy, since her subordinates always did that servant work for her. Having zero patience for excuses, Yejung demands that she get moving with the task, leaving the proud leader feeling completely humiliated for having to take orders from a regular guy. Rummaging through the messy tables, Bai Ningbing notices something strange catching her eye in the corner of the room. She realizes the young man is holding a specific pill in a super nervous manner. With a sly smile, the woman deduces that well-guarded medicine might be the key to helping her recover her lost cultivation. Creating a quick distraction, she points toward a shelf at the back, faking that she found some rare elixirs, making Yejung turn his back to look. Seizing the open opening, the warrior lunges forward in a quick leap and steals the item straight out of our MC's hand. In a desperate move for power, she swallows the pill all at once without thinking about the consequences for a single second. Turning his face around in pure shock, the young man is completely dumbfounded and stammers, asking if she seriously had the guts to eat that. Displaying a smug expression, the leader claims his panicked reaction just proves she made the absolute right choice. Suddenly, an incredibly unstable energy overflows from the woman's body, making her heart race completely out of control. But that sensation of power quickly turns into total confusion, and she starts breaking out into a cold sweat, feeling her body burn from the inside out. Clutching her own chest with great difficulty, the former master panics as she notices that her spiritual strength didn't return at all. Panting and with her face completely flushed red, she finally recognizes the intense symptoms of that specific type of mixture. Analyzing the scene coldly, Yejung concludes that the old master wanted to test a super potent, sense-altering formula, mentally thanking his stars that he didn't swallow that thing himself. Unable to keep herself standing, the woman tugs on the young man's clothes in a completely weak manner. Totally dominated by the overwhelming effect of the potion, the great leader loses all her posture and begs for help, needing immediate relief. Enjoying the pure irony of the situation, Yejung mocks her, reminding her that she literally just tried to run away and already has the nerve to come back begging for his help. Completely overpowered by the medicine's effect, the former leader gives in and admits with great difficulty that she made a massive mistake. Pulling the chain that holds her, the young man coldly warns her that if she truly recognizes her failure, she needs to show a much better attitude from this exact moment forward. Humiliated for having to submit to a mere disciple, the proud warrior bites her lips as pure shame takes over her entire being. Unable to bear the intense heat of the toxin any longer, she drops to her knees on the floor, desperately begging to be corrected right away. While the system panel alerts him that the reform progress has increased, handing a power reward over to our MC, the young man doesn't miss the chance to laugh at the scene, finding it absolutely hilarious how the great fairy of the righteous faction is now reduced to a pet wagging her tail at his feet. Pulling the prisoner close, he decrees that this is the absolute last chance he is going to give her and tells her not to disappoint him again. Receiving immediate confirmation that she wouldn't dare, silence soon takes over the massive alchemy hall. Fixing his clothes after resolving the issue, the young man grumbles that the special poison from that sect is truly incredibly difficult to neutralize. Adjusting her posture on the floor, Bai Ningbing feels pure rage for having to go through that once again with the exact same guy, while the screen informs him that stage 1 is complete and a brand new reform room has been unlocked. Right then, a sudden audio notification catches Yi Zheng's attention. Intrigued by the alert, he turns his face to check what the system is trying to inform him about. An enormous red door majestically appears inside the virtual space, making the young man celebrate the fact that he scored such unexpected gains so fast. However, that euphoria is instantly cut short by a flashing red emergency alert on the screen, warning him that other cultivators are fighting right next to his physical body. Instantly, he remembers the chaos outside and realizes the frontline base is still under a massive attack from the enemy invaders. Observing the destruction all around, Ye Zheng realizes that the absolute chaos of the battle is the perfect moment to manage and escape from this complicated situation. So, he tells Bai Ningbing to stop stalling and follow him quickly so they can get the heck out of there right away. Walking in a total rush, one of the two ends up taking a wrong step on the unstable floor of that alchemy hall. Suddenly, the floor gives way completely, and both of them plummet down a dark hole while letting out startled screams. With the impact of the fall, they land in a completely unknown location, letting out groans of pain as they hit the bottom. Catching his breath, Ye Zheng notices that there is a secret basement hidden right underneath the main hall. At that moment, our MC creates a small flame in the palm of his hand to light up the total darkness of the room. Looking around, he discovers that the place is packed with female prisoners from the enemy sect, suspended by heavy ropes and chains. Seeing that terrible sight, Bai Ningbing is frozen in pure shock as she recognizes her captured and mistreated followers. Running toward one of them, the master panics and blames herself for not being able to protect a single person in her group. Watching the reunion play out, Ye Zheng comments sarcastically that this whole thing looks like karma coming right back to haunt the leader. Right then, a weak, trembling voice coming from the shadows asks who else is there besides them in this damp place. Recognizing the familiar tone instantly, Bai Ningbing desperately calls out the name of her favorite disciple, Lanji. Hanging upside down from a stone pillar, the girl can barely move due to the severe gravity of her injuries. Staring at her favorite disciple in that utterly deplorable state, the sect leader cannot hide her deep despair and worry. Bound by heavy chains, Xiao Lanji coughs with great difficulty and appears to be in an absolute critical health situation. Even while suffering, the second disciple looks up at her master with a tiny shred of hope, stating she was absolutely certain she would be saved. Devastated, Bai Ningbing wonders how things ever reached this point and curses the absolute cruelty of the He-One sect. Analyzing the girl's body, Ye Zheng notices that her spiritual root has been completely destroyed and her energy is basically down to zero. Noticing the severity of the internal damage, he comments that the disciple is just one single step away from losing her life for good. Looking off to the side, the young man sees other female cultivators being used in a completely inhumane way as mere energy objects. Sobbing, the former leader begs Ye Zheng to save her follower's life, promising to do absolutely anything he wants. Recalling the day of the attack, she shares how her eldest disciple ruthlessly teamed up with the enemies and betrayed the entire group without a shred of mercy. During their desperate escape, Lanji sacrificed herself by fighting off multiple opponents so that her master could run away and hide. Because of that, the leader managed to make it all the way to the cave where the first encounter between her and our MC recently took place. Offering to take the disciple's place as a permanent prisoner, Bai Ningbing begs for the young girl's survival at any absolute cost. But Lanji screams from high up in the chains, begging her master to never, ever ask for favors from a follower of dark sects. Watching the emotional conflict between the two, Yejung keeps a cold, thoughtful look, deciding on what move to make. While the girl states she prefers the end over seeing her master humiliated, the system warns him that helping her will bring incredibly valuable treasures. Giving a provocative smile, the young man warns them that he has absolutely zero obligation to help, since he only protects what belongs to him. Staring the woman right in the eyes, Yejung demands real proof that she is willing to completely submit to his command. So, he orders her to loudly declare that she belongs to him before he even considers helping the injured disciple. Having absolutely no other way out, Bai Ningbing drops to her knees before him and admits to being Yejung's woman, leaving Lanji in complete, utter shock. Hearing that humiliating confession, the disciple feels an even greater surge of hatred, and the system records a massive leap in her hostility level. Grabbing the leader by her hair, the young man roughly corrects her, saying she is just his servant and nothing more than an object for him to use. Enraged by the aggressive treatment shown to her master, Lanji screams at him to let her go and challenges him to a direct fight if he actually has the guts. Finding that blind loyalty completely amusing, Yejung reminds them that they teamed up to treat him terribly in the past and are now just getting a taste of their own medicine. Calling them total hypocrites who stomp on the weak, he states that both of them need to go through a severe reform to finally learn their lesson. While the former leader lowers her head in deep shame, the disciple keeps grinding her teeth in pure rage over their current situation. Noticing that the girl's resentment is only growing, our MC finds the situation highly stimulating and waits for the exact moment to trigger the capture. Suddenly, a massive rumble makes the ceiling shake, reminding the young man that they are still right in the middle of a literal war zone. Using his attraction power, he pulls the injured disciple close while ordering her to stop resisting completely uselessly. With a swift movement, Yejung shatters the chains that were holding the young girl, causing her to fall free as he rescues her from midair. Even though she is totally confused, she receives a warning that she needs to stay very close to him if she wants any real chance of getting out of there alive. However, their escape is cut short by a group of warriors from rival sects who demand they stop immediately right there in the corridor. A warrior named Lindsay shows up, accusing the group of taking things way too far and demanding that everyone pay with their lives right then and there. Seeing the newcomers, Lanji gets totally confused and asks if they aren't members of the factions that are supposed to fight for justice. Observing the siege of flying swords, Yejung realizes that dealing with this group from the righteous path is going to be incredibly annoying and exhausting. He glares at the invaders with deep suspicion, noticing that their true intentions might be just as rotten as any other enemies. With a look loaded with pure malice, Lindsay focuses on Bai Ningbing and comments that her power seems to be completely gone. Suggesting a completely disgusting deal, the man says he would absolutely love to spend some quality alone time with the greatest beauty in the region just for fun. Realizing the true face of those warriors, the disciple panics, noticing that they aren't real heroes at all like she originally thought. The leader of the group continues with the insults, claiming that Lanji would also make a highly valuable prize for his own personal enjoyment. Yejung concludes that the differences between the factions are nothing more than a total front, and he decides to use those idiots to push the disciples' buttons. Right then, Lindsay proposes that the young man hand over both women in exchange for his freedom and getting to leave without getting hurt. Accepting the deal on the spot, our MC pretends to be an absolute coward just to make Lanji's fury completely explode for good. While Lindsay's henchmen celebrate how easy the negotiation was, the girl curses them out, calling them shameless and filthy for acting like this. Consumed by absolute hatred, she swears she is going to put an end to every single one of them, while the system confirms her hostility has hit the absolute ceiling. Seeing the total success of his irritation plan, Yejung watches the disciple begin to radiate an intense, dangerous glow. The interface reveals that she possesses a super rare spiritual body, and that extreme stress has awakened an absolute overwhelming, hidden power. With the hostility limit fully reached, the system confirms the successful capture of the rebellious disciple and rewards Yejung with an imposing magical sword, radiating an intense scarlet energy. Contemplating his newly acquired weapon, the young man overflows with confidence and decides he will use the invaders to test out the true destructive power of that treasure. In the blink of an eye, he lunges forward at a terrifying speed, leaving nothing but a red trail in the air and catching his opponents completely off guard, giving them zero chance to defend themselves. Yejung lands a fatal strike on the first enemy, taking the warrior out of commission instantly. The interface reveals that the blade absorbs the essence of the defeated to grow even stronger, making our MC celebrate his incredible luck for scoring that prize. Realizing way too late that the kid was hiding his true strength, Lindsay completely panics and orders his companions to immediately form a defensive battle matrix to fight back. Promptly, the fighters take up their synchronized positions and summon a glowing barrier surrounded by magic all around them. Right after that, the men fire a literal rain of light beams at the target, but Yejung dodges and deflects absolutely everything with total ease. Noticing his movements have become way more agile. Evaluating the situation, the young man deduces that all this speed is a bonus granted by the brand new sword, but he realizes there is a steep price to pay. All of a sudden, our MC feels a massive internal discomfort and ends up spitting out blood, showing clear signs of severe physical exhaustion. Analyzing the state of the weapon, he notices that the energy absorbed from the previous attack has already been almost completely consumed. Worried about the limitation, the young guy concludes he will be defeated if the fight drags on, while Lindsay shouts at his henchmen to give him zero breathing room and focus entirely on stealing the treasure. Shifting into an offensive formation with a quick movement, the enemies summon a gigantic sword of green energy right in midair. With a loud crash, the colossal blade drops down in a totally crushing manner right onto our MC without a shred of pity. Watching the explosion up close, the leader of the enemy group shows immense arrogance, highly doubting that some random cultivator could survive an impact of that level. Resisting the extreme pressure, Yejung coughs violently while trying to endure the raw impact of the enemy attack. The massive energy keeps forcing the kid down against the stone, threatening to split his body entirely in half at any given millisecond. Confident in an easy victory, Lin Si and his henchmen comment with total relief that the target has zero strength left to fight back, planning to just take the red blade for themselves. Completely cornered underneath the glowing green light, the young man gives into the exhaustion and drops to his knees on the dungeon floor. Envying that rare equipment, one of the attackers is utterly outraged that a lower-level fighter could hold something so formidable in his hands. However, the victorious mood is instantly shattered when the enemy notices that the injured young man just gripped the hilt of his sword with absolute conviction. Overcome by a wicked thought in the middle of his pain, our MC deduces that since he lacks other people's energy, his very own blood will serve perfectly to feed the artifact. Releasing a dark, terrifying aura, he channels his own vitality straight into the blade, leaving his opponents totally baffled by his seemingly suicidal move. Radiating a dense, terrifying energy, the young man lifts his head, promising them that the time has finally come to return the favor. With a continuous, violent swing, he unleashes a scarlet shockwave that slices the entire hall completely to pieces. The massive power of the strike shatters the enemy barrier as if it were literal glass, completely breaking their magical formation. Breaking into a cold sweat as he watches his men collapse, the troop leader realizes in pure shock that he doesn't have nearly enough power to handle this monster all by himself. In an act of pure cowardice, Lindsay turns his back on the fight and takes flight, desperately trying to escape the imminent massacre. With his eyes locked dead on his prey and his battle thirst at the absolute top, Yejung decrees that their chances of running away are officially over. Slicing through the air as fast as a literal lightning bolt, he catches up to the runaway with total ease and lands a fatal slash right in mid-sky, feeling the heavy weight of the cursed blade piercing straight through his chest. The runaway questions in pure panic how this could have happened right before blacking out for good. Standing majestically over the fallen attacker's body, our MC lets out a massive sigh, trying to calm his racing breath. At that exact millisecond, a highly familiar glow catches his attention, and Yejung turns his face, noticing the magical presence close by. Despite his obvious exhaustion and wounds, the young man uses pure sarcasm to ask if the very first thing a rescued girl does is attack the person who literally just protected her. Flashing a freezing cold glare, Xiao Lanji keeps her blue eyes glowing with pure hostile intent directed right at him. Wielding a broken sword while her body radiates spiritual mist, the young girl threatens the young man, who wonders with total disdain if this is really what the great master taught her disciples. Without backing down a single step, Lanji acknowledges the rescue and thanks him for the act in a super dry manner. But that gratitude vanishes instantly when she readies her blade, stating that the path of light and evil can never, ever walk together, receiving a totally bored sigh from the kid who completely expected that hypocrisy. Frustrated by that glitchy speech, the young guy grumbles that the famous unblemished faction is nothing more than a bunch of ungrateful snakes in disguise. Tired of trying to talk things out in the real world, our MC pulls up his blue screen and quickly hits the button to finalize the target's capture. Caught completely off guard by the unknown technology, The girl is instantly bound by the virtual chains before she can even try to swing. Now in the complete comfort of his invisible domain, Yejung evaluates in a highly calculating manner which of the two correction methods he should pick for the newbie. Analyzing the detailed information, he discovers that a highly aggressive process would cause his energy to instantly explode, pushing his body to a crazy high level in mere seconds. On the flip side, the screen informs him that taming the girl's mind would transform her into an eternal follower, while handing over a nature-focused genetic constitution in exchange. The interface keeps explaining that this unique prize guarantees complete, absolute mastery over herb recognition and medicinal properties. Super excited by the herb info, Yejung figures out that completing this mental correction will automatically turn him into a highly sought-after expert in potion crafting. Without thinking twice, he grabs the prisoner by her throat, wanting to firmly establish his authority. Staring down at the young girl who is desperately trying to struggle, he throws it in her face that it would be pure stupidity to waste such absurd advantages by putting a quick end to her life. Tugging the chains holding her in a totally rough manner, the young man pulls the woman's body incredibly close and demands that she obey him. With their faces locked together in a highly tense vibe, he comments maliciously that he heard all about the healing powers her sacred body possesses, suggesting that some highly intimate contact between them will fix up all his wounds in absolute no time. In the world outside, the enemy's body remains fallen in the silent hall, while the girl's loud protests and crying echo muffled through the infinite corridors of the torture system. After a long moment of intensive correction, the system panel sounds an alert, informing him that 20% of the obedience process has already been successfully completed. Stepping out of the dimension and back into the dungeon, our MC displays a glowing green aura all around himself, proving he conquered the first stage of herb-focused biology. Showing off his toned muscles and flawless skin, the kid admires his own hands, realizing there isn't even a single shadow of the wounds he took during the clashes. He feels a massive wave of excitement upon realizing that besides the miraculous healing, his inner energy flow is skyrocketing at an absolute impressive speed. Now properly dressed, he pats down his clothes, agreeing with himself that all the chaos of this night yielded some truly fantastic prizes. Determined to keep moving on his journey, the young man raises his hand to call up the virtual menu and triggers the command to store away both captured female cultivators. Looking down with pure mockery at Fairy Ningbing and her poor student now serving as virtual prisoners in the digital back lot, he comments excitedly that he can barely wait for the day when both of their wills are completely crushed. His peace quickly ends when the cave ceiling shakes aggressively, kicking up tons of dust and debris. Paying close attention to the chaotic noise of the battles raging up on the surface, Yejung decrees that he has already dragged out his stay in this hellhole for way too long and needs to find an escape route as soon as humanly possible. Sprinting back toward the alchemy rooms, the young man hurries to loot the place so he doesn't leave empty-handed from this absolute mess. During his frantic search, the young man slams on the brakes when he notices some highly suspicious jars left on the floor. Stopping to investigate, he finds small magical containers leaking some highly interesting properties underneath the rubble. The absolute exact millisecond he locks his vision onto the substances, the young guy's brand new superpower kicks into action, identifying the complex compounds and all their detailed recipe uses completely automatically. Holding up a medicinal pill, Yejung is totally surprised and thinks he is the absolute best for being able to track down any alchemical utility just by catching a whiff of the thing, highly approving of the system's reward. Without wasting a single moment playing the hero, he starts shoving the rare mixtures and expensive flasks straight into his pockets in a totally compulsive manner. Celebrating on the inside, he mocks the face of his old superior who hid that actual treasure, absolutely loving the fact that now the loot belongs entirely to him. All of a sudden, an accidental collision happens when a woman with some highly voluptuous features brutally slams right into him face. First in the middle of the rush, stumbling back from the painful encounter, the young man roughly questions who on earth dares to get in his way, but he hears the intruder fire back the exact same question in a highly threatening tone. Displaying exaggerated curves squeezed into tight dark sect attire, the mysterious woman quickly deduces that the young man is only there to line his pockets by stealing items. Dazed by the massive impact, our MC notices his nose bleeding heavily and figures he just smashed his face into something way too soft. However, the confusion hits even harder when he feels his veins throbbing and his mind turning completely fuzzy for absolutely no apparent reason. Shaking just to stay conscious, he realizes that this stranger's charm is actively messing with his senses, instantly remembering exactly who she is and her incredible genetics for deadly attraction. The kid recalls that the camp gossips always used to say that Huang Tianmei didn't really know how to fight properly, but her body's natural spell was absolutely lethal enough to drive any warrior completely insane. Ignoring the young man's visible distress entirely, the female elder presses him firmly, demanding the names of whoever sent him there, while Yejung fights a mental battle, wanting nothing more than to get the heck out of this trouble-infested place before falling completely under her spell. Trying to wriggle out of this sudden mess, Yejung cups his hands in deep respect and spins a lie that he is the brand new personal disciple of Elder Wu, promising that he wasn't stealing a thing and just wanted to protect the precious pills. Pointing down at the hole in the floor, he explains that 3 invaders from the rival sect attacked the place, and that he barely managed to survive to save the inventory from that total chaos. The female elder looks up, showing immense curiosity at the kid's totally flimsy excuse and absolute boldness. Sheathing her weapon, Huang Tianmei mocks the story, finding it completely impossible that a low-level brat could have defeated 3 experienced warriors, betting that the whole thing was pure, unadulterated luck. Breaking into a cold sweat under her constant pressure, the young man realizes she is actively using a charm technique to scramble his brains, and he knows he needs to pull himself together fast. With a sudden, sharp movement, he releases a powerful wave of glowing green energy all around his own body to completely shatter the enemy's mental spell. Impressed by his resistance, the woman praises the young man's calm composure in front of her oppressive aura, while he fakes deep humility, apologizing for any offense caused. Wanting to test his story in actual practice, she uses her purple magic to hurl a heavy cauldron straight toward him, demanding that the kid prove his identity by showing off his skills. The massive alchemy equipment slams down with a heavy crash onto the stones right in front of Yejung, kicking up clouds of dust in the ruined hall. Staring at the young man with pure malice, the woman states that crafting a few basic potions shouldn't be a single bit of trouble for the old master's supposed genius apprentice. Evaluating the trap, our MC understands she is trying to corner him, since his current level wouldn't normally be nearly enough for that type of highly complex refinement. But he instantly spots a massive advantage, remembering that his brand new body with absolute affinity for the wood element can totally handle the job, and he decides to accept the challenge. Noticing the shift at that exact moment, Huang Tianmei is completely surprised to see the kid's aura turn way more dense and dangerous. Intrigued by his steady posture, she wonders to herself if this brat can actually manufacture a high-level pill without making a single error. Focused entirely on his goal, Yejung confidently extends his hand and summons a powerful, glowing green spiritual flame, completely ready to begin the alchemical process. With great agility, the young man launches the spiritual flame stream straight into the cauldron to preheat the equipment, before throwing in a single material. While the temperature climbs step by step, he places his hand on his chin and calculates that he can use this short interval to pick out the absolute right medicinal herbs. Looking at the debris scattered all over the room's floor, the kid notices that most of the original ingredients were completely destroyed during the recent battle. However, overflowing with massive confidence thanks to his brand new perception power, he promises that creating a backup formula is the easiest thing in the absolute world for him now. With his newly acquired plant knowledge, he rapidly selects 3 specific herbs that will perfectly balance the energy absorption and protect the body from any side damage. Without a single hesitation, Yejung throws the freshly chosen base materials into the heated equipment in a highly calculated manner. Instantly, the inside of the cauldron reacts to the mixture, glowing with a powerful green light through the rustic cracks in the metal. Focused entirely on the meticulous process, our MC manipulates the magical flames using nothing but his hand movements, concentrated deeply on maintaining absolute exact control over the temperature. Up close, the female elder notices that the plants being used are completely outside the conventional standard, and she admits the kid actually knows exactly what he is doing there. The young man's concentration is absolute, and his eyes glow intensely as he feels the chemical mixture hit the absolute perfect point for completion. All of a sudden, a massive pillar of green fire explodes out from the cracks of the cauldron, lighting up every single wall in the ruined room. With an incredibly loud bang, the heavy lid of the equipment is blasted high into the air due to the intense energy pressure built up on the inside. In the middle of the blinding glow, multiple perfectly round pills pop out of the container, floating in a highly magical way right in the air. Extremely satisfied with the result of his own hard work, Yejung manipulates the small energy items around his open hand, presenting his finalized creation. Completely shocked by that bizarre sight, the dark, Haired warrior widens her eyes while trying to process the young man's insane skill level. Blown away by the exceptional quality of the potion, the woman analyzes one of them up close and notices the unique markings that indicate an absolute top-tier level of purity. The female elder deduces in her head that the old master hid an absolute true prodigy under his wing this entire time without telling a single soul. Taking full advantage of her clear moment of approval, the young man tries to wrap up the conversation quickly, asking if he is now officially cleared to go help out on the front lines of the conflict. But the leader overflows with malice and steps close, touching him directly on the chest, coldly warning him that that is absolutely not going to happen. Deep frustration takes over our MC as he realizes the woman has zero intention of letting him go anytime soon so he can make his escape. Their tense conversation is brutally cut short when a colossal explosion destroys a massive chunk of the building right behind them, making absolutely everything shake. Coughing heavily due to the dense cloud of dust kicked up, Yezheng tries to shield his face and spot anything in the middle of the fresh rubble. Hurled in a totally violent manner across the hall, Elder Wu's completely battered body collapses onto the floor, totally defeated by the battle outside. Right after that, an invader with a highly intimidating look tears right through the mist of dirt and stomps hard onto the fallen old man's back. Wielding a gigantic, heavy sword, the massive fighter named Bailey too mocks the weakness of the local faction and locks his eyes onto the final two survivors inside. Instinctively taking a step back, the kid curses his own luck for running smack into a dangerous, high-level cultivator right at his exact escape hour. In a tone of pure mockery, Huang Tianmai notices the big guy's thirst for battle and comments that he doesn't look a single bit like a pure, righteous warrior. Furious at the direct provocation, the invader snaps back in a total rage, promising that using ruthless methods is the only correct way to deal with wicked people like them. Dragging his monstrous blade across the cracked floor, Bailey two steps forward threateningly, stating that talk time is officially over. It is nothing but a fight to the absolute end. Instead of backing away from the massive threat, the woman takes complete charge of the situation, activating her charm magic with a vibrant purple glow, wanting to test the enemy's courage up close. Caught completely off guard by the delusional spell, the experienced warrior's face turns bright red, and he tamely agrees with absolutely everything the enemy says. From a distance, the kid is highly impressed by the raw power of that physical technique, which was capable of dominating a monster's mind that incredibly fast. Tugging the collar of her own clothes in a highly suggestive move, she celebrates victoriously, claiming they can finally resolve this invasion through pure peace. Keeping completely quiet, the massive guy approaches her in a deep trance, appearing to be totally hypnotized by the purple smoke. But in a deadly and completely sudden attack, Bailey too unleashes a crushing blow with his heavy blade, forcing the female warrior to block the massive impact using her small dagger. Pressed back by the brute force of the strike, she widens her eyes, completely unable to comprehend how her mental spell failed from 1 second to the next. Aggressively ripping away part of his own clothes, the fighter reveals that he cut off his vital roots of desire a long time ago, just to avoid ever falling victim to that exact type of strike. Wrapped in a highly dangerous orange aura, the man shouts with pure hatred that he sacrificed his own body in the past with the sole goal of completely wiping her sect off the map. Horrified by that crazy revelation, Yezheng realizes that the self-proclaimed heroes of the righteous path are absolute ruthless psychopaths, even toward themselves. Recovering from the heavy push, the woman regains her confidence and warns him that resisting the initial illusion doesn't mean he has already won the clash. Completely ignoring the taunt, the enraged warrior charges once again, unleashing another violent attack in a blind attempt to crush her skull right then and there. Focusing entirely on direct combat, he activates an extreme reinforcement technique that makes his muscles swell absurdly under a brilliant flame. At a terrifying speed, the massive enemy fires off a brutal sequence of lightning, fast punches that the female elder blocks using pure evasion techniques. Staring down his prey with a crazy look, Bailey too throws it in her face that his power level is way superior, warning her that cheap tricks will never, ever hurt him. With a booming shout, he lands a devastating area of effect attack that completely swallows the enemy inside a massive magical explosion, declaring that she has absolutely nothing left to do. Hit dead on by the intense, dark shockwave, the woman is flung far down the corridor, letting out a painful groan. Seeing the great fighter lose the physical combat so terribly, the kid concludes that the situation in this place has crossed all limits, and he decides to run immediately to save his own skin. Not satisfied with just beating his enemy down, the massive invader takes a colossal leap, preparing to drive his weapon deep into the stone foundation. With a seismic impact, the blade pierces the floor, rapidly activating a magical formation packed with massive chains hooked to floating rocks. Total Sando, the veteran celebrates out loud, warning them that all the glory and honor for wiping out this villain camp will belong solely to him. Injured and bleeding heavily from the corner of her mouth, Huang Tianmei is frozen right in the center of the room, completely unable to break free from the Matrix's glowing locks. Trapped right alongside her in the exact same isolated zone, our MC grinds his teeth, blaming those nosy idiots for dragging him right into certain destruction. Driven by pure danger adrenaline, Yejung summons his brand new red spiritual sword, focused entirely on cutting the bindings before it is way too late. Using every single bit of strength from his low cultivation, he fires off rapid slashes in a row against the light structure, making tons of sparks fly into the air. The invader laughs at his blind boldness, finding it completely ridiculous that a low-level kid honestly believes he can make a single scratch on a giant matrix like that one. Turning his back on the young man's useless attacks and focusing on the defeated leader on the floor, Bailey too promises he will use her as an offering and then do the exact same to the young guy. Trembling under the intense pressure generated by the barrier, Yejung breaks into a cold sweat, fully understanding he has zero normal escape routes, and starts looking for desperate ways out. Slowly opening his hands and staring at his own fingers, he focuses on the multiple glowing potions he just perfectly manufactured in the previous room. In a highly risky moment of pure heroic deduction, the kid realizes that forcing a painful breakthrough in his body forging level by swallowing the pills is his one and only possible salvation right now. Without thinking about the severe consequences of a massive overdose, the kid dumps all 5 units straight down his throat, instantly feeling the green magic rapidly flood his wide, open pupils. Sensing the immense spiritual energy filling the room, Huang Tianmei notices with absolute awe that the kid is absorbing absolutely everything to force a level breakthrough right in the dead center of that chaos. Super smug, the massive invader lets out a chuckle and questions if the brat honestly thinks reaching this new stage will be anywhere near enough to challenge him. Charging into the attack with his heavy sword, Bailey too warns him that he is not afraid of a single thing, but even so, he isn't going to let the young man complete the process. The brutal impact of the blade strikes Yejung's energy barrier dead on, generating a massive shockwave across the entire hall. Watching everything while completely unable to act, the woman laments that her illusion technique is totally useless right now, leaving her with nothing to do but pray that our MC can somehow win. Deep inside his own mental space, the young man finally feels the bottleneck of his cultivation give way, and the power begins to surge. But he quickly deduces that pure brute force alone isn't going to save his skin. He urgently needs combat techniques that can actually keep up with this new power. Without wasting a single second, our MC goes straight to the virtual prison and orders his captives to stop stalling and teach him their sex skills as fast as humanly possible. Overflowing with rebellion, Lanji rejects the request on the spot, calling him totally deluded for thinking they would ever help a literal enemy. However, the disciple's defiant stance completely flips when she notices something highly strange happening in the adjacent area. In the blink of an eye, energy chains lash out against the girl's body, making her scream desperately from the system's severe punishment. Utterly revolted, she demands to know what our MC did to her master, and he just replies coldly that he will use brute force to refine the leader, since they refuse to cooperate. Pressed to the absolute limit and panting for air, Bai Ningbing begs him to stop that right now and promises to teach him the Flowing Cloud Sword manual immediately, rapidly boosting her submission level. With the brand new skill locked in his mind, Yejung deeply absorbs the technique's concepts, connecting his body and soul with the manual's hidden intent. In a sudden awakening, the young man opens his eyes, radiating an intense light, proving he completely assimilated every single bit of the required knowledge. The overwhelming force of his awakening completely shatters the magical chains, catching the massive invader totally by surprise. Standing up and surrounded by a spiritual gale, our MC finally hits the very first layer of his brand new cultivation stage. Trembling from the sheer pressure in the air, Bailey too asks himself in pure terror if an energy this oppressive is seriously the standard for a level leap like that one. Trying to regain control of the situation, the veteran charges straight at Huang Tianmei, calling the woman an absolute idiot for dropping her guard during the fight. Completely unable to dodge in time, the female elder ends up getting grazed by the wind blade, crying out in pain as she absorbs the heavy impact. Seizing the one single opening she found, she fires back rapidly, landing an energy beam dead on against her opponent. Sliding across the floor after that desperate shot, the warrior tries her best to maintain distance from her furious enemy. Staring down at the wound on his body, Bailey too grinds his teeth as he feels the pain throb, but that attack isn't nearly enough to bring him down. Consumed by absolute fury, the fighter summons every single bit of his remaining strength and lets out a booming battle cry, completely ready to finish everything. But right then, Yejung steps dead into his path wielding his red blade, warning him that the time has come to put a definitive end to this mess. The system quickly rewards the young man with a dark technique, and he confidently concludes that he needs nothing more than a single breath to win this entire battle. Without backing down, Bailey too blasts through the air violently, ordering the kid to disappear from the world once and for all. Giving a provocative smile, our MC activates his brand, new sacrifice art without a single hesitation. Instantly, a gigantic scarlet aura explodes from Yejung's body, leaving the invader completely perplexed by the sudden, massive escalation of power. Maintaining a perfectly calm and deadly posture, the young man forms a hand seal and summons the very first form of the style taught by his prisoner. Seeing the red energy approach, the experienced invader clicks his tongue with total disdain, thinking that wouldn't cause a single bit of serious damage. Focusing dead on the target with zero mercy, Yejung completes the ultimate technique's movement, unleashing every single bit of accumulated energy in one single slash. However, the price of the sacrifice is collected instantly, and our MC collapses onto the floor, coughing due to the intense pain ripping through his muscles. Watching the kid fall, the female elder lets out a discouraged sigh, lamenting how naive she was to think he would save them, concluding that this is truly her end. Walking slowly toward the defeated young man, Bailey too demands to know how a complete nobody learned the secret skills of a rival faction. Furious at the silence, the veteran readies himself to deliver the final mercy blow and wrap up the matter quickly. All of a sudden, the power of the strike takes effect from the inside out, and the invader spits out blood, completely perplexed to realize that a power of that level was utterly impossible for the kid. Having absolutely no way to resist the massive pressure, the big guy's body is pierced by a brutal impact, and he drops dead straight onto the ruined floor. That drastic turn of events causes the female warrior's eyes to widen in absolute, total shock. Kneeling on the rocks, she stares at the fallen invader and murmurs softly, trying to believe that the massive monster was finally defeated. While Yejung tries his best to stay on his feet, taking deep breaths, the woman remains completely dumbstruck by the fact that a newbie just eliminated someone that incredibly strong. The extreme effort claims its price once again, and the young man spits out blood, highly frustrated to notice that not even his special biology can heal the damage from that technique right away. Completely exhausted and with his vital essence entirely drained, our MC loses consciousness and collapses forward. In a swift movement, Huang Tianmei catches him in her arms with a fascinated smile, admitting that her little hero has heavily sparked her interest. The scene shifts to a location incredibly far away, revealing the majestic mountain base of the Great Righteous Path sect. The deep silence of the Grand Temple is broken when a messenger comes running in absolute, total despair. Scolding the lack of manners from his lackey, the faction leader turns his back and demands to know the reason behind all that panic. Stammering in pure terror, the subordinate reveals that the soul lamps of Elder Bailey II and his very own great-grandson just went completely dark. Hearing that tragic news, the Grand Master's face twists with pure hatred, and his crushing energy begins to leak across the entire hall. As absolute confirmation of the disaster, the spiritual relic violently shatters into reddish flames. Overcome by rage, the leader shouts sarcastically, congratulating the absolute audacity of whoever committed that terrible act. He demands to know immediately who was responsible, and the lackey can only report that the end of both men took place inside the enemy fortress. Cursing the rival sect with every single bit of his strength, the veteran rants, utterly outraged by the loss of his highly valuable warriors. Radiating a deadly aura throughout the temple, he swears he will make his opponents pay an incredibly steep price for that insult. Right then, a second elder approaches, asking him to calm down, suggesting that a temporary truce would be ideal right now, since both sides suffered heavy casualties. The leader questions with absolute indignation if the advisor seriously expects him to just swallow all this resentment and cast his revenge aside. Flashing a terrifying look, Elder Yin explains his plan to fake a peace agreement solely to make the enemy faction completely drop their guard. Using a secret transmission magic so absolutely nobody else can hear, the advisor details the wicked trap straight into his superior's mind. Highly pleased with the treacherous strategy, the master agrees with the idea and thanks his subordinate for the brilliant vision. Turning his back right after, the leader shifts his focus, stating he has another highly critical matter for his ally to handle in complete secret. Determined not to forgive their losses, The master orders his infiltrated spies to spring into action to eliminate the person responsible at any absolute cost. Promptly, the cloaked creature bows and guarantees he will execute his superior's orders with absolute strict rigor. Far away from there, a strong breeze blows across the ruins of the isolated mountain fortress. Night finally falls over the front lines, bringing a brief moment of relief to those who managed to survive the massive attack. Carrying the unconscious Ye Jung, the female elder orders the guards to beef up their defenses while receiving news that the invasion is officially over. Worried about the young man's critical state, a female follower offers to take him straight to the medics, but the leader rejects the help right away. Maintaining a perfectly firm expression, the woman announces that she will handle his recovery personally and walks straight into the quarters. With her purple aura pulsing softly, she carries the boy through the corridors to an area located far away from anyone else. Outside, a disciple flashes a sly smile and lets out a mocking scoff as she watches her superior isolate herself with the boy. The malicious woman comments to her co-workers that the newbie definitely won't survive the elder's highly dangerous methods, but spending time with her must be totally worth it. Now in the complete comfort of the bedroom, Huang Tianmi lays the boy down on the bed and declares that he is priority number 1 at this exact moment. Leaning over the young man's body with pure malice, she whispers that she is going to uncover every single secret he is hiding. Gently touching Ye Jung's injured chest, she reflects with absolute awe on his strange skills in the plant, like healing aura his body radiates. Completely intrigued, the female warrior activates her charm gift, and her eyes glow intensely to investigate his spiritual essence to the absolute bottom. That invasive mental spell makes our MC grind his teeth in pure agony, while the system triggers a critical alert warning him that his sanity is rapidly collapsing. Trapped by the pink magic, Ye Jung realizes that Huang Tianmi is using her hidden arts to deeply investigate his body. In a perfectly calm tone, the woman tells him to just relax because the treatment isn't over yet, while the system warns him that she shows zero hostility, completely blocking a direct capture. Breaking into a cold sweat over the situation, the young man decides he cannot let his superior uncover all his secrets under any absolute circumstance. Having very few options in the physical world, he rapidly turns to his virtual space and goes straight to confront Bai Ningbing and Xiao Lanji. Without wasting a single moment, our MC demands that they teach him their sex-exclusive female cultivation method, leaving the disciple totally confused about the sudden reason. Annoyed by the stalling, he tells them to cut the small talk and move fast, which makes the former leader agree with total mockery, warning him she doesn't care if he wants to cause his own end. The proud warrior explains that the technique is strictly locked to the female physique, and if a man attempts to practice it, the energy in his meridians will flow in the absolute opposite direction. Hearing about that dangerous flow inversion, the kid shows massive excitement, thinking the idea is absolutely wonderful. Roughly grabbing the prisoner, he celebrates that this is exactly what he needs for the moment, leaving the woman completely shocked by his suicidal attitude. Thinking that crazy guy is looking to completely destroy himself for good, the former leader asks him to let her go and agrees to hand over the method without any resistance. Back in the real world, the female elder murmurs excitedly, claiming she is just a tiny bit away from uncovering absolutely everything the boy is hiding. But at that exact millisecond, Ye Jung activates the forbidden technique with full force, releasing an absolute crushing pressure. That drastic change creates a powerful spiritual gale that forcefully pushes the woman back. Surprised by the reaction, the warrior realizes in pure panic that the young man's energy is flowing in a direction completely opposite to normal. That bizarre inversion causes a massive impact directly on the woman's essence, forcing her to try and rapidly shut down her own magic before getting severely hurt. Free from the oppressive containment, our MC plops down into a sitting position and coughs heavily to recover his lost breath. Evaluating the damage, he realizes that crazy trick messed up his internal organs, but he is incredibly relieved to have successfully stopped his superior's nosy investigation. However, looking straight ahead, the young man notices that the elder's state looks incredibly weird. Panting and trembling, the woman supports herself on the floor, completely dominated by the side effects of her own interrupted magic. Totally vulnerable and with her mind completely fuzzy, she asks in a highly provocative voice if the boy thinks she is super pretty. Wiping his injured face, Ye Jung is frozen in pure shock as he understands she completely lost control of her own desires due to the impact on her technique. Desperate over the imminent danger, he begs the woman to calm down, while the room radiates a powerful magical light that illuminates the outside balcony. Far away from that room, a group of invaders tracks a magical signal, confirming that the target responsible for eliminating their young master is located right there. Wielding his sharp blade, one of the masked men decides to storm the place immediately to put an end to the kid. But the leader of the pack roughly yanks the henchman back, ordering him to stop right that exact second. The boss scolds his reckless attitude, warning him that the intense aura coming from down there belongs to a high-level female cultivator with a highly dangerous lineage. Staring down his subordinate, he questions if the absolute idiot honestly thinks he could pull off a move without drawing that powerful woman's attention. Thinking in a highly strategic way, the veteran concludes that a weak cultivator won't last long next to a figure like that, deciding that waiting for him to leave is their absolute best option. Right then, 2 more warriors appear on the neighboring roof, and the boss orders them to call in reinforcements to join their lookout crew. With the team fully assembled, he decrees they will strike together the absolute second the woman leaves, guaranteeing the job will be extremely easy to pull off. Meanwhile, inside the isolated bedroom, Huang Tamai keeps losing her sanity and lets out wild, uncontrolled murmurs. Completely giving in to her own spell, the warrior flops flat onto her back on the bed, entirely unable to maintain her posture. Watching that highly dangerous scene, Ye Jung gulps and admits that the powers generated by that special physique are truly terrifying. Slowly putting his clothes back on, our MC sighs and tries to find a highly profitable way out of all this absolute madness. Displaying an intense aura in his hands, he celebrates the fact that the heavy tension helped force a level breakthrough in his own cultivation, calling the chaos a massive blessing in disguise. Lying on the messy bed, the female elder just watches him with heavy eyes and a totally lethargic attitude. In a super low voice, she praises the kid's strange skills and asks if he seriously plans to make her suffer by leaving things exactly like this. Not knowing how to react safely, the young guy keeps his distance, making sure to keep his guard up high. Faking deep respect, he bows, apologizing and swearing he didn't want to offend her in any absolute way. But the woman warns him it is already way too late for regrets. Adjusting herself a bit in the sheets, the superior stares down her prey and asks point blank what he intends to do now. Giving a tense smile, the young man tries to joke around, asking if the elder wants him to take full responsibility to guarantee him protection and sweet perks inside the sect. Finding that total innocence highly amusing, she pinches the boy's cheek, warning him he has zero clue about the gravity of the situation, and he begs to be clued in immediately. Adopting a highly serious posture, the warrior sighs, reminding him of her high rank, and questions if he honestly thinks she stays in power using nothing but her looks. The woman explains that the vast majority of people born with those rare genetics end up turning into mere objects for other fighters to boost their own strength. Maintaining a vibe of heavy suspense in the air, she asks if the newbie can guess exactly what major power figure has had his eyes locked on her for a very long time. Instantly, the terrifying image of the sect leader pops straight into Ye Jung's mind, confirming that the mastermind behind this entire thing is none other than Grandmaster Shio Yaozi. The young man's eyes turn completely dark as he understands the sheer complexity of the chess game he just accidentally stumbled into. Stepping incredibly close to the boy, the warrior asks if he finally comprehends the sheer size of the disaster he attracted by getting involved with her. Giving a sly smirk, our MC mocks the situation, admitting he thought she was only worried about much more intimate matters instead of fearing the master's pure rage. Frustrated by his poorly timed joke, she turns her face away and states her destiny was already carved out to be handed over to their superior regardless. Determined to fix the mess, the woman points out that they now need to handle the consequences, betting heavily on the young man's potential to completely surpass the faction leader in the future. Lifting his chin with genuine affection, she confesses that placing everything into the hands of a talented boy ends up being a choice that leaves her highly satisfied. Scratching his nose awkwardly, Ye Jung gets totally confused and mentally wonders why on earth he has the strange feeling of getting played for a fool by her once again. Shifting his tactics, he cups his hands, faking deep sadness, and laments that his low level is completely useless for guaranteeing the safety of someone that incredibly important. Stepping right into his manipulation game, the female elder hugs him from behind, blushing hard, and suggests they still have plenty of time for him to help her with her cultivation. While the vibe heats up on the inside, the pack of invaders remains planted on the neighboring roof, waiting in complete silence in the deep darkness. Already impatient, one of the henchmen grumbles that their wait has dragged on for way too many hours and the sun is literally about to rise. Annoyed by their lack of focus, the chief orders them to wait just a bit longer and decrees that if the target doesn't step out on his own, they will storm the bedroom by force. Everyone agrees in absolute unison on the plan of action, while the very first rays of sunlight lightly illuminate the camp's roof tiles. Inside the room, the now fully dressed warrior crosses her arms, flashing her complete frustration, calling the boy absolutely insensitive for not knowing how to handle a woman. Suddenly, the woman stops complaining as she senses an highly abnormal commotion coming from the outside environment. Outside, the masked warriors lose all their patience and take sneaky leaps, lit up by the moonlight, heading straight toward the hideout. Noticing the invaders approaching, the elder concludes that the security at this base is total garbage, but she thinks this distraction serves perfectly for the moment. Watching the young man focus deeply on his scarlet meditation, she mentally decrees that if he can't handle low-level henchmen, he definitely deserves zero respect. Wrapping up his strengthening process with total success, Yezheng opens his eyes, glowing intensely as he reaches yet another dense stage of cultivation. Standing up, completely overflowing with energy, the boy clenches his fists, celebrating that he is now way stronger to face the supreme leader when the time comes. His moment of triumph is cut short when the wooden door is brutally kicked open by the armed invaders. Analyzing the room with a quick glance, the troop chief celebrates the fact that the target is all alone and orders a lightning attack to guarantee their revenge. Showing absolutely zero fear, the boy draws his terrifying crimson blade, instantly recognizing the exact origin of that nosy pack. Wielding his combat-thirsty blade, he announces with massive satisfaction that those extras arrived at the absolute perfect hour to serve as his test subjects. In an absolute impressive dash, our MC blasts through the room like a green lightning bolt, leaving the enemy troop completely frozen in shock by his absurd speed. Confident in his group's strength, the leader doesn't back down and readies a heavy blow, believing the clash will be highly advantageous. The two powerful forces collide, generating a colossal energy explosion that makes the wooden floor of the room completely shatter to absolute pieces. The resulting shockwave hits the henchman dead on, sweeping every single invader far away without a shred of difficulty. Stepping out of the dust completely unharmed, the young hero throws them a look of pure boredom and warns them with massive mockery that his opponents are way too slow for his current level. Seizing the wide, open opening, Yezheng lunges forward and lands a fatal strike on the invader without giving him a single chance to defend himself. Immediately, the system panel alerts him that the sword has absorbed enough essence and has begun to evolve, making the young man notice the physical shift in his weapon. With the sword's progress climbing rapidly, the equipment demands even more vital energy to keep the transformation going. Watching the scene in pure panic, another troop member warns that the kid is holding a high-level treasure and orders his companions to form a combat matrix. But our MC pops up right in front of his face in the blink of an eye, guaranteeing he isn't going to let them do whatever they please. Completely unable to defend himself, the warrior is hit by a direct slash and lets out a cry of intense pain, falling down completely defeated. Seeing their companion get severely injured, the other fighters are totally shocked and shout out for their fallen superior. The interface displays that the evolution has hit the 50% mark, while the enemies curse the young man out, calling him a cruel monster. Determined not to let their sacrifice go to waste, the invaders begin to prep their grand magical formation under Yezheng's watchful eye. A massive magic structure emerges, channeling a dark aura, making the hero recognize the pattern of that spell at that exact same millisecond. Evaluating the spiritual energy, which is completely identical to that of his former opponents, he mocks them, questioning if this shoddy tactic is truly the standard for sects that claim to be righteous. Right then, the scene shifts to the virtual prison space where Xiaolanji is kept trapped by the containment chains. The young man warns her that he is going to summon her into the real world so she can take care of a few opponents, but the girl promptly refuses to help anyone she considers a villain. Instantly, the system applies a painful punishment using lightning bolts, making the disciple scream in absolute despair, demanding that he leave her master out of this. Staring down his hostage firmly, the boy makes it crystal clear that she has absolutely zero right to negotiate and simply commands her to get the job done. Succumbing to the heavy pressure, the girl lowers her head in deep shame and simply begs that he at least provide some actual clothes. The panel quickly confirms the jump in correction progress, automatically dressing the prisoner in a brand new outfit completely automatically. As an immediate reward for her submission, the system further upgrades the host's special physique, leaving him absolutely marveled by the unexpected advantage. Back in the real world, the invaders notice the brilliant green light and decide to amp up the spell's power, believing the target should have already been completely wiped out. All of a sudden, the reddish blade slices through the air in a lightning, fast throw straight toward the enemy group. The surprise attack catches absolutely everyone off guard, and one of the attackers tries to warn his teammates a mere second before the impact. Giving them zero chance to escape, the weapon hits the target dead on, generating a massive crash that severely wounds the warrior. With the sword's evolution hitting 70%, the hero walks forward calmly, guaranteeing their little playtime is officially over, and now it is his turn. Breaking into a cold sweat, the invasion leader finally understands that the rumor about this young man's strength was completely 100% true. The injured henchman crawls across the floor, promising his chief that he can still keep going in the fight to honor their fallen companions. Taking complete charge of the situation, the superior agrees that the mission must be wrapped up, cost what it absolutely may. Channeling an incredibly dense green aura all around his body, the veteran uses a hidden art to skyrocket his strength to the level of a golden core for a strict time limit. Launching into the offensive at an absolute absurd speed, the enemy leader tries to hit the target, but the young man blocks the heavy punch using his weapon. Pressing the attack with absolute fury, the warrior pushes our MC back, trying to crush him under any circumstance. The brutal clash of energies triggers a massive explosion in the hall, completely destroying the floor all around them. Stepping out of the smoke, the invasion leader praises the kid's effort for being able to endure a fight against a power level way above his weight class. Radiating pure power, the warrior challenges his opponent to keep going and rapidly moves across the environment. Searching for his missing target, the enemy chief rants, calling the young man an absolute coward and demanding a direct confrontation. Right then, the veteran suddenly coughs up blood and realizes he took a lightning, fast cut, deducing that the magical treasure stole his energy to evolve. Holding his now completely transformed sword, Yejung shows massive satisfaction while the system confirms his mastery of the brand new dark technique. He praises his opponent's resistance with pure irony, fully aware that his brand new attack is capable of completely ignoring any single type of defense. Refusing to accept the taunt, the invader concentrates his aura and warns him that his cultivation rose right along with his physical strength. Casting the warning aside, the hero takes a firm stance and radiates a lethal red aura to prepare his counterstrike. With a ruthless movement, the young man unleashes a devastating shockwave, hurling the leader far away. Channeling every single bit of his vital sacrifice straight into the blade, the boy announces the name of his newest destructive art. The red energy takes on the terrifying shape of a colossal demon that charges forward, roaring straight at the opponent. Trying his best to survive the overwhelming technique, the veteran summons a massive golden shield to protect his body. Trembling in absolute despair, the troop leader pushes all his limits to keep the magical barrier held up against the raw impact of the strike. The force of the blow completely shatters the enemy defense, making the attacker drop to his knees and cough heavily. But he somehow still finds the breath to laugh at the situation. Believing the kid drained every single bit of his energy in that attack, the warrior decrees the end of the battle, completely failing to notice the presence of Xiaolanji, stealthily emerging right behind his back. Acting incredibly fast, the summoned girl fires off multiple magical roots that bind the invader before he can even manage to turn around. Totally immobilized by the bindings, the enemy chief recognizes the famous warrior from the rival faction at that exact same millisecond. Extremely pleased with his hostage's work, Yejung approaches with slow steps and commands his sword to finish the job. Answering the call, the cursed weapon launches multiple draining filaments straight at the target, causing the man absolute terrible suffering. Maintaining a perfectly serious posture during the invader's punishment, the disciple begs once again for the young man to free her master. With the system reporting that 50% of the correction is complete, he holds her face in a highly possessive way, guaranteeing he would never, ever hurt his valuable objects. On the ruined floor, the invading leader's body drops completely lifeless after having his vital essence entirely stolen. All of a sudden, a small green magical stone pops out from the defeated warrior's belongings, flying away all on its own. The crystal flashes a powerful glow before cracking and splitting into multiple pieces right in midair. Staring at the shards without understanding, the young girl hears the young man comment in a highly ironic tone that her life is absolutely not going to be easy from here on out. Overflowing with malice, the disciple explains that the stone recorded the entire fight, and that the enemy sect will definitely hunt the young man down completely tirelessly, treating the threat with total indifference. He admits that it is annoying, but throws it in her face that this recording will also completely destroy her own group's reputation. Our MC points out that the entire world will know their star student turned into a mere servant for him, which makes the girl curse out in pure rage. Completely losing the argument, the hostage just backs away a bit, trying to swallow the deep shame of that highly public humiliation. Lifting her face once again, the young man tells her to watch her tone of voice very carefully when speaking to him, reminding her who dictates the rules now. Their conversation is interrupted when one of the base's sentinelists comes running in, completely desperate to announce an enemy attack. Right behind him emerges another warrior, questioning the situation and evaluating that the invaders caused a massive amount of damage inside. But the man suddenly stops talking as he locks his vision onto a highly specific and eye-catching detail in the scene. The veteran recognizes Xiao Lanji instantly, knowing perfectly well the high value of that critical prisoner. Identified as the elder's eldest disciple, he questions in a highly authoritative way why the kid is holding on to the master's hostage, but receives nothing but pure mockery as a reply. Displaying the battle marks on his face, the hero suggests the supposed guard should focus on figuring out how the enemies managed to invade the place that incredibly easily. Infuriated by the newbie's absolute audacity, the veteran grabs our MC's clothes, ordering him to stop trying to change the subject. Adopting a highly threatening posture, the man demands that the boy hand over the woman that exact same hour, if he doesn't want to suffer the consequences. Showing absolutely zero fear, Yejung concentrates his red magic in the palm of his hand, prepping for a brand new clash. Releasing a highly intense, lethal aura, the young man mocks the threat and challenges the veteran to show off every single bit of his lack of manners. Sensing the dangerous tension escalating fast, the guard standing next to him tries to calm his partner down, suggesting that now is absolutely not the time for internal fights. Without waiting for the enemy to strike, the hero unleashes a powerful wind blow, ordering the duo to get the heck out of there immediately. The impact is suddenly interrupted by a firm shout of command echoing through the ruined environment. Drawing everyone's attention in the corridor, Elder Huang Tianmai emerges on the scene, walking with massive authority. Stopping right in front of the warriors, the leader asks about the reason behind all that chaos, while the veteran points at the young man, accusing him of pure theft. The veteran points furiously at Yejung, claiming the bastard neglected his duties, letting the invaders roll right in, and then framed him for stealing his cauldron. Hearing the accusation, Huang Tianmai just lets out a sigh, showing total impatience with all this sudden, messy drama. Without any prior warning, the leader releases a powerful purple aura that hurls the guard far away, utterly annoyed by him trying to frame his very own sect teammate. Pinned to the floor by the crushing magic, the man begs for forgiveness, admitting his mistake, and asks what punishment he should receive. Maintaining her ruthless posture, she orders him to clean up the mess and get rid of the bodies scattered across the area immediately. Promptly, the lackey begins dragging the defeated out of the hall, while our MC watches everything, overflowing with massive satisfaction. Dragging the heavy bodies away, the guard throws a look packed with pure hatred, mentally guaranteeing that this matter is officially not over yet. Noticing his rival's hostile intent, the young hero maintains his cool, thinking that he will be eagerly waiting for him. With the problem successfully resolved, the female elder turns her back to leave the ruined room, leaving the hostage Xiao Lanji feeling highly relieved. Walking down the corridor, the woman comments that she didn't expect to see the boy with a high-level cauldron, praising his talent for hiding secrets. She reinforces that precious items demand massive strength to be protected, making it crystal clear that his equipment fits perfectly under that exact rule. Stepping incredibly close to the young man's face, the female warrior warns him in a highly provocative tone that this exact same rule applies to her, leaving him highly tense. Turning around to leave, the superior instructs the boy to get some great rest because tomorrow she will hand over a highly critical task for him to execute. Our MC agrees in absolute silence as he watches the woman walk away down the dark corridor alongside the captured disciple. Acting in a totally gentle way for the very first time, Lanji lowers her head and thanks the hero, admitting her destiny would have been absolutely terrible if she had been taken by that ill-intentioned guard. At that moment, the system displays that the girl's reform has hit 60%, rewarding the young man with a technique capable of absorbing natural energy to heal wounds. Super excited about the valuable prize, Yejung mocks her, saying she is way easier to tame than her great master, leaving the young girl completely confused by the comment. Far away from there, a dark gale stirs the robes of an imposing figure, announcing that terrible news has arrived at the enemy base. Laid out on a wooden table, multiple soul lamps go dark and crack all on their own, confirming the tragic end of an entire troop. The leader of the Xuanling sect grinds his teeth and releases a crushing green aura, completely consumed by fury upon receiving the disaster report. Ranting across the main courtyard, the Grand Master curses all his subordinates, calling the troop absolute useless garbage. Utterly unable to accept it, he questions how 5 experienced fighters failed to handle such a simple matter at the enemy border. Trying to calm down his superior's mood, a cloaked elder begs him not to get so incredibly frustrated with the whole situation. The old advisor activates a magical projection stone, revealing the final image transmitted by the fallen warriors right before their defeat. The dark smoke clearly shows Yi Jung's face as he launches his devastating attack, instantly identifying him as a member of the rival faction. Besides the young man, the projection also reveals the presence of the famous disciple Xiao Lanji, watching everything in terror right behind him. Evaluating the scene, the leader deduces that even with the help of a literal traitor, it would be completely impossible for that kid to defeat his shadow elite all by himself. Agreeing with the master, the elder draws attention to the red blade in the target's hand, stating it is a highly advanced spiritual treasure. The Grand Master narrows his eyes and asks exactly where the advisor is trying to go with that observation about the weapon. With a highly calculating look, the cloaked man concludes that an item of that level proves the kid is actually the hidden sacred son of the enemy sect. Sitting on his throne, the veteran agrees that this theory makes total sense and perfectly explains the absurd combat power the target displayed. He points out that factions usually hide the true identity of their successors and equip them with valuable items to guarantee their survival in complete secret. In a super excited tone, the elder congratulates the leader, who in turn doesn't understand the reason for celebrating such a humiliating defeat of his troops. Overflowing with malice, the advisor explains that exposing the enemy's future successor gives them a massive advantage to move in the shadows and put a definitive end to the threat. Highly satisfied with the genius logic, the leader flashes a sinister expression and asks if he will need to dirty his very own hands to resolve this problem. The cloaked man guarantees that won't be necessary, suggesting a fake temporary truce to take full advantage of the grand sect competition and eliminate the plague in absolute, total secret. The plan highly pleases the superior, who praises Elder Yin's brilliant mind and trusts the entire lethal operation completely into his hands. Walking out to the balcony under the moonlight, the Grand Master summons every single warrior at the base with a booming voice. Commanding the end of the war, he decrees the immediate retreat of the troops and swears the rival successor will completely vanish from the map during the tournament. While danger takes shape in the shadows, Ye Jung lets out an incredibly loud sneeze in the complete comfort of his bedroom at the camp. Wiping his nose in total confusion, our MC wonders how it is humanly possible for someone at his cultivation level to catch a cold this suddenly. Casting the paranoia aside, he decides to focus on what actually matters and sits on the floor to test out the effects of his brand. New life creation art. Wrapped in an intense, glowing green energy, the young man recites the principles of the technique, connecting his spirit with the infinite cycle of life and nature. The magic flows through the room in a highly powerful way, lighting up an old wooden chair that was resting in the corner of the bedroom. Responding to the call of extreme vitality, the dead furniture begins to sprout fresh leaves and branches in an absolute near miraculous way. Watching the technique up close, the hero notices that the power doesn't just interact with nature, but loots vital energy in a completely predatory manner. A highly fascinated expression takes over his face as he notes the destructive and overwhelming strength he just conquered from the system. Having its essence completely drained, the previously revitalized chair now withers and turns to dust in a matter of mere seconds. Concentrating the green aura in the palm of his hand, he understands he can suck the vitality out of any living being in the world to beef himself up. Seeing that macabre sight, Lanji curses him, calling him completely unprincipled for using such cruel magic, and he fires back mockingly that this was simply the prize won for taming her. All of a sudden, a blue screen pops up, informing him that the technique possesses a dual cultivation mode, guaranteeing absurd effects if performed with someone of the exact same natural element. With his gaze completely dominated by malice, the young man concludes that the ideal partner is already standing right there in front of him, making the girl back away in terror, asking what on earth he is going to do. In a rapid lunge and giving her zero chance to defend herself, Ye Jung pins the disciple down on the bed, trapping her arms to block any escape attempt. Overflowing with authority, he warns her that she is going to help him upgrade his cultivation that very night. While the young girl struggles desperately to break free, in absolute, total panic, she begs him to stop, but the shadow of the two fuses together under the dim candlelight of the quarters. After a long night of intensive training, the girl rests completely exhausted, covered by nothing but a soft sheet. Overflowing with renewed energy, Our MC clenches his fists and celebrates that the special method made him break through yet another body limit with massive success. Adjusting the sheet to cover herself up, the hostage screams furiously, calling him an absolute scoundrel and swearing he will meet a terrible end for taking advantage of her like that. Gently holding the irritated girl's chin, he guarantees the training benefited both of them and tells her to check her own body before complaining so much. Completely perplexed by the sensation, Lanji begins to radiate a green aura and realizes that a chunk of her lost cultivation magically returned. Maintaining close proximity, the young man explains that the strength didn't return all on its own, but was restored by his energy, guaranteeing that continuous sessions will rapidly accelerate her healing. Softly running his thumb across the girl's bottom lip, he sparks her hidden desire to hunt for her own power back. With her face completely flushed bright red, Lanji internally decides she will recover her strength as quickly as possible so she can save her master from danger. Taking the initiative in a highly rough way, the disciple shoves the hero back against the mattress, warning him that was officially not enough. Sitting right on top of him, showing massive urgency, the woman announces that one single round of dual cultivation was not nearly enough for the boost she actually needs. On the morning of the very next day, the camp wakes up quiet under the sunlight after all the destructive chaos of the previous night. Firmly pushing open the bedroom door, Leader TMA steps inside, questioning the reason for his delay, reminding him they booked serious appointments for that day. Realizing the sudden invasion, the disciple shrinks back in terror underneath the bed covers to try and hide from her superior. Our MC emerges covered in hickey marks and breaking into a cold sweat, cooking up the flimsy excuse that he spent the entire night training all by himself. Staring at the scene with a furious and totally dark look, the female elder loses her patience and orders him to get out of that room immediately. Once outside, she gives him a total scolding, saying she explicitly told him to rest early. But the boy just lets out a nervous laugh, guaranteeing he was only prepping for the big event. To prove he wasn't lying, Yejung releases his dense spiritual aura, leaving his superior in pure shock as she realizes he stepped up a level once again. Glancing sideways at the exhausted young girl in the bed, Tiami wonders to herself, highly intrigued, if the captured girl also possesses a magical body perfectly suited for energy draining. Taking full advantage of her distraction, the young man boldly squeezes the elder's curves and asks in a provocative tone if she is jealous of this whole bedroom situation. Surprised by his highly cheeky attitude, the woman is left completely speechless while he overflows with confidence, asking if she is finally ready to face the Grand Master. Lanji is completely, utterly shocked, trying to comprehend what kind of absurd history that scoundrel has to manage to get involved with even Elder Tiami. Giving up on trying to understand the situation, the girl just takes a deep sigh and decides to let it go for now. Meanwhile, the leader instructs our MC to bring his brand new servant along with them, guaranteeing that today's event demands intimidating a few people. He flashes a confident smile and questions if the woman honestly thought the credit for defeating the major invader would yield nothing more than a few words of praise. Stating that after today his status inside the sect will completely change, the scene cuts to the faction's immense courtyard, packed with tons of gathered disciples. In the dead center of the crowd, the warriors whisper among themselves about the reason why the female elder summoned absolutely everyone so suddenly for an important announcement. One of the boys comments to veteran Jayo that the meeting must be to organize the leadership positions, since the former hall master just lost his life in the battle. Kissing up to his teammate, another disciple claims with absolute certainty that the veteran is the perfect choice to take over the main rank of the alchemy hall. Overflowing with greed, Jao decrees that no matter what perks the leader offers, he is going to make that pretty boy pay a steep price this very day. Right then, the imposing elder Tiame walks through the courtyard with massive authority, followed closely by Yi Zheng and his captured servant. The woman's presence catches the immediate attention of every single man in the place, who turn completely fascinated by her beauty and her body. Totally hypnotized, they comment on how the leader seems to radiate an even more mature and dangerous charm on this specific morning. Having zero patience for the whispering, she climbs the platform steps and demands absolute silence with a booming voice. Taking the floor before the highly attentive crowd, the female warrior announces she gathered all the disciples here to deliver a message of extreme importance. She recalls that the sect suffered a massive loss recently, but balanced the damage by dominating and putting an end to the feared invading warrior from the enemy faction. Due to the heavy casualties on both sides, the leader calmly informs them that the major rival factions have agreed to declare a temporary ceasefire. That news brings immediate relief to the warriors, who celebrate excitedly for no longer needing to serve as shield fodder on the front lines of the clashes. Returning to her serious tone, the elder laments the loss of the former pavilion leader during the attack and states that the main position cannot remain empty. Instantly, the suck up surrounding Joe begin congratulating him in advance, absolutely certain the veteran will be the grand chosen one. Faking deep humility, the man thanks them for the praise and guarantees he will still highly need the backing of all his teammates in the future. However, completely crushing all expectations, the leader declares loud and clear that Yi Zheng is the brand new acting master with absolute authority over the hall. Caught a bit off guard by the direct announcement, our MC thinks the woman is being way too flashy with this public appointment. The crowd drops into absolute, total shock, furiously questioning how a newbie with 0 sec time can take over such a major rank from 1 hour to the next. Overcome by indignation, veteran Zhao stomps firmly to the front of the group and warns the leader he has something to say about this revolting decision. He argues that he was always trained by the former master and spent the last 15 years managing every single matter of that place to absolute perfection. Furiously pointing his finger straight at the boy, he throws it in everyone's face that his rival arrived a mere few days ago and knows absolutely nothing to take on such a massive responsibility. Without being shaken by the protests at all, the woman looks at the young man and decrees his permanence in the rank will depend solely on his performance, telling him not to disappoint her. Realizing the trap, the young guy sighs in frustration, understanding that prominent position was handed out solely to cause even more intentional trouble for him. Taking a step forward with a confident posture, our MC glares at his rival and questions if he honestly thinks he is more qualified for the job. With a sharp look, he demands to know exactly where the great veteran was hiding last night when the invaders destroyed the entire hall. Pressed by the direct question, the man widens his eyes and starts breaking into a cold sweat, completely unable to cook up a quick excuse. Stepping even closer to intimidate, Ye Zheng throws it in his face that he was the only single person to put his life on the line to fight off the enemies while protecting the facility. Our MC lays it wide open that the veteran and his men only showed up after the dust had already settled, solely with the cowardly intention of stealing the credit for the victory. That revelation rapidly flips the script, making the other disciples whisper in deep disappointment over their teammates' behavior, starting to completely agree with their superior's choice. Totally humiliated and left with 0 arguments, Joe points his weapon and orders the boy to shut his mouth, stating that in the cultivation world, respect comes solely from brute force. Calling the newbie completely unworthy due to his low level, the veteran proposes a duel right then, and they're in front of everyone, where the loser permanently gives up the rank for good. Following the drama up close, the elder flashes a dangerous smile and comments excitedly that she would absolutely love to watch a tight clash like that one. Finding the situation totally pathetic, the young man mocks the grand lack of shame of an advanced stage fighter wanting to challenge someone of a lower level straight to their face. But maintaining a flawless posture, he agrees that crushing his annoying rival is the only way to convince the group, accepting the challenge without a single hesitation. Seizing the opportunity to profit off the mess, the hero warns that an official fight absolutely must have some type of highly valuable bet on the table. The veteran gives a disgusting smile and decrees that when he wins, he doesn't just want command of the facility, explicitly demanding that the boy hand over his brand new servant in the package. Hearing that absolute absurdity, the captured girl panics over the despicable, bold greed of that rotten man. Drooling over the disciple, Zhao thinks about how highly advantageous it would be to use a girl with a strong bloodline to upgrade his own power, completely willing to sacrifice years of his life just for that. Demonstrating authority, the young man steps right in front of the young girl to protect her and demands to know what treasure his rival will put on the line to back such an expensive bet. Confident in his own superiority, the man mocks the boy's courage, seriously doubting he has any minimal chance of stepping out as the winner of the courtyard. Maintaining his cool in front of all the yapping, our MC simply crosses his arms and tells his opponent to open his eyes to the consequences. Instantly, his rival pulls out a small, rustic cauldron that glows with a dense energy, promising to hand over the relic if he somehow inexplicably ends up losing the fight. Right then, the system's blue interface quietly beeps inside the boy's vision, detecting the presence of a magical treasure perfectly suited for his needs. The panel displays the cauldron stats and asks if the host wishes to use his brand new special technique to consume the item and steal its rare properties. Extremely satisfied with the update, Yejeng celebrates on the inside over the fact that his arrogant enemy just handed over the absolute best possible reward on a silver platter. Proudly showing off the piece, the man guarantees that thing is an incredibly valuable artifact conquered with major sweat by their former master. Without wasting time, the young guy closes the deal on the spot, but warns him that words in the wind don't serve as proof for a serious dispute. Turning to the curious crowd, he lifts his voice, asking every single teammate to serve as a witness to that bet involving their ranks and the heavy prizes. Excitement completely takes over the place, with the disciples thinking the boy is totally crazy for risking a luxury prisoner against a veteran so highly experienced in combat. Observing his boldness, Elder Tiami deduces the young man knows perfectly well how to generate profit, and she decides to wait and see what cards he plans to play in the arena. Furious at the hero's coldness, the girl clenches her fists and curses him out, calling him a scoundrel for lightly using her as a simple betting coin. She laments her own terrible luck, absolutely certain our MC doesn't give a single care about whether she survives or meets a dark destiny in that nasty veteran's hands. With the vibe catching total fire, the bookies begin shouting the clash odds, paying an absolute fortune to anyone who has the sheer courage to bet on the newbie's victory. Certain the veteran will massacre the boy in seconds, multiple warriors hurl their weapons and spiritual stones onto the floor, confirming their total bets on the favorite. Clearing the gossips out of her path without saying a single word, the base leader approaches the betting area with firm, decided steps. Breaking into a cold sweat in the presence of her imposing boss, the man in charge of the cash tries to justify himself, saying they are just playing around to relieve the tension. Ignoring her subordinate's nervousness entirely, the woman opens her hand and dumps a massive amount of brilliant, extremely valuable stones straight into the collection plate. Overflowing with absolute wealth, she places 200 high-level stones on the table and loudly decrees that her entire fortune goes to Yejeng's victory. That unusual move leaves absolutely everyone perplexed, and the bookie questions if the Grand Leader didn't mix up the names in her rush, reminding her of the brutal power gap between them. Exchanging a look of pure complicity with our MC from a distance, she warns him in a threatening tone to make absolutely sure she doesn't lose a single dime on the trust she placed in him. On the other side of the courtyard, the veterans' allies whisper that their superior's move was a direct, intentional humiliation, meant to totally throw him off balance. Overcome by a deep hatred from the rejection, Zhou clenches his fists and swears he will break the boy permanently to prove his own value. Positioning himself in the dead center of the makeshift arena, the hero lightly hovers through the air and warns his opponent for the absolute last time to get perfectly ready. Dominated by blind fury, the veteran activates a scarlet aura around his body and orders the boy to drop to his knees and hand everything over if he wants to leave alive. With total indifference, our MC mocks him, asking if the man forgot to brush his teeth this morning to be talking that much garbage and dirtying up the environment. That bullsy provocation is the absolute last straw, making his rival explode in rage and charge with everything, shattering the stones underneath his feet with his brutal launch. Noticing the lethal approach, the boy concentrates his own dark magic in his arms and takes up a flawless combat stance. The veteran readies his main destructive technique, focused entirely on wiping his opponent out with one single massive impact, aimed straight at his chest. At the absolute last second before the collision, the protagonist summons his terrifying reddish blade in a beam of light that blinds the spectators all around. With an incredibly smooth movement and without backing down a single millimeter, Yejeng uses his freshly arrived sword to block the veteran's absurd force, generating a massive bang across the courtyard. Watching the perfect defense, the disciples are totally impressed by the boy resisting a high-level attack like that, but they quickly conclude the newbie only pulled off that feat because he's using a highly powerful magical treasure. Veteran Jiao intensifies his purple aura, admitting he heavily underestimated his opponent. Highly confident, he warns him that first strike was nothing more than a basic warm-up before the real combat. Without wasting a single second, his opponent activates a dark cloning art. Instantly, multiple copies made of purple energy surround our MC from every single side. Launching into total offense, the copies charge forward with absolute fury, ordering the boy to disappear once and for all. Taking full advantage of his superior agility, Yejeng dodges and deflects the rain of punches with total peace, maintaining a flawless posture in front of the multiple attacks. Finding the useless effort completely amusing, the hero openly mocks him. He states that with that weak power level, his rival could never, ever put an end to him. In the crowd, the fans panic as they witness the absolute absurd speed. Despair hits hard for those who bet absolutely everything on the veteran, terrified of losing every single penny of their savings. Outraged by the constant evasion, Zhou grinds his teeth and warns the brat not to think so highly of himself, guaranteeing that being a bit faster isn't going to save him for very long. Slamming his hands hard onto the arena floor, his rival conjures a massive spiritual trapping matrix focused entirely on the wood element. An immense grid of green light takes over the floor, launching dozens of magical roots and vines directly at our MC, who is standing right in the center. Noticing the magic's rapid approach, the boy just watches as the creepers begin to wrap around his legs. With a swift, deadly swing of his scarlet blade, he slices through the greenish bindings with total ease, freeing his body from the trap in the blink of an eye. Certain he trapped his prey, the veteran lets out a convinced laugh. He explains that the more the target tries to struggle in that matrix, the tighter it will lock, on top of slowly draining every single bit of his spiritual energy. Displaying his purple copies and active roots, Zhou decrees with massive arrogance that this is the inevitable destiny for anyone who dares cross his path. Watching the fight from afar next to her prisoner, Elder Tiame gets a bit impatient. She murmurs, wondering to herself what the reason is for Yejung not launching a decent counterattack yet. Getting wrapped up by the forest energy, the protagonist notices the absolute perfect opportunity. He internally evaluates how his enemy's matrix interacts flawlessly with his very own special cultivation method. Without making the slightest physical effort, the mere presence of the boy's aura causes the magical vines to completely dissolve right in midair. Radiating a formidable green glow, the hero stands tall in the center of the courtyard, breaking his opponent's entire trapping spell all at once. Launching into the offensive with his crimson sword, Yejung fires off a devastating bloody slash that wipes out every single purple copy and strikes the veteran dead on. In absolute, total shock, his rival stumbles back without understanding a single thing. He questions himself how it was humanly possible for the newbie to destroy his main containment matrix and illusions with one single movement. Overflowing with pure irony, the protagonist thanks his teammate for the grand collaboration. He reveals that the energy stolen from that trap helped him climb another entire level in his cultivation. Consumed by utter humiliation, Zhou pulls out his small, valuable cauldron and swears the brat forced him to take an extreme measure by using the treasure's maximum power. An intense explosion of reddish power takes over the arena. The crowd panics as they notice the dangerous technique allowed the veteran to temporarily reach the level of a golden core. Far from feeling a single shred of fear, the hero displays a highly calculating expression, admitting that power upgrade was exactly the chance he had been waiting for since the very start. Summoning his ultimate art of natural creation and absorption, Yejung commands his magic to completely devour every single bit of available energy for him. Covered in a sinister aura, the enraged opponent calls the newbie absolute trash and tells him to pay close attention to what is about to go down. Preparing a devastating attack with his hand glowing intensely, Zhou brags, claiming that is the true, unrivaled strength of an advanced fighter. With a rough swing, the veteran fires off a gigantic palm of reddish energy that slices through the air, ripping up the entire courtyard floor right toward the target. The force of the shockwave is so massive that the pressure flings the disciples in the crowd far back, leaving everyone terrified as they can barely keep themselves on their feet. Facing the wall of imminent power, the boy just calmly adjusts his posture and comments that the attack timing was simply, absolutely perfect. Expanding his green aura of infinite creation, the hero advances without a single hesitation to confront the frontal attack, using his power to completely dominate the situation. Instead of exploding, the gigantic palm of red energy is completely absorbed and dissipated by the boy's greenish magic, right in the middle of the path. Watching his most powerful strike vanish into thin air, the veteran panics, questioning how an insanity like that could even be humanly possible. The impact of the drain is so deep that his opponent's small magical cauldron begins to crack, losing every single bit of its glow all at once. Sensing his very own arm dry up, Zhao screams in outrage. He cannot accept that his superior energy is getting stolen by a mid-level opponent he considered an absolute failure. Completely perplexed by the absolute cruelty of the technique, the man questions how the newbie had the sheer courage to train in an art so dark and devouring, coldly calling his rival a complete idiot. Yejung closes the distance at high speed and grabs his enemy's shoulder to accelerate the power drain. With his sanity draining away, the veteran finally realizes the obviousness of the situation, remembering way too late that their faction is literally notorious for using wicked methods. Using his green magic with absolute total dominance, the protagonist lifts his rival into the air, ruthlessly sucking out the rest of his vitality right in front of everyone. In the stands, the shock is absolute. the warriors gossip, completely perplexed, concluding the boy was definitely hiding his true strength, since overcoming that level gap completely defied all logic. Left with zero energy to keep itself whole, the loser's highly desired cauldron drops to the ground and shatters into multiple useless pieces. Flashing pure irony, the hero mocks the situation, warning his teammate that his highly valuable bet just turned into absolute scrap metal. Completely drained and terrified of his imminent end, Zhou tries to negotiate his survival, begging and promising to hand over every single bit of his family's wealth. The boy stares down the defeated man with a freezing cold look, denying the deal with a super simple, highly sarcastic apology. Preparing the final blow to wrap up the dispute, the protagonist announces with total calm that after his rival's end, that entire inheritance will already belong to him anyway. With a hard impact, the veteran's drained body is flung right out of the arena, crashing down with zero strength next to the other disciples. Standing all alone on the destroyed platform, the hero hears the official verdict echo through the courtyard, declaring his absolute victory in the clash. The crowd discusses the young man's absurd strength excitedly, with many admitting he truly deserves the rank, while others shake in pure fear, terrified of payback for talking trash about him earlier. Maintaining absolute formality, Elder Tiami walks out with her imposing aura, announcing that per the betting terms, the newbie now officially commands the hall. Threateningly turning her face toward the silent crowd, the leader asks if anyone else has the courage to voice any objection, receiving nothing but terrified no's. Handing the authority plaque over to the boy, the female warrior formalizes the power transition, confirming that from this exact moment forward, he is the brand new master of the alchemy department. Faking deep gratitude for the vote of confidence, Yejung bows politely and promises to execute all his duties to perfectly restore the facility's glory. Watching the victorious outcome from a distance, the captive disciple reflects that the young man appeared to be absolutely 100% certain of his success when he used her as a prize. Blushing lightly at her own thoughts, Lanji begins to internally question if the cruel judgment she made about his character in the beginning was completely mistaken. Instantly, the system screen pops up, confirming the girl's correction has hit 70%, making the hero mentally celebrate for being so incredibly close to fully taming his hostage. With the mess wrapped up, the betting manager approaches, shaking in fear, to hand over the tray lined with the wealth won by the leader. Resting her hand on her hip, Tiemi orders the sweating subordinate not to forget to deliver the rest of the profits straight to her house tomorrow, receiving the man's desperate confirmation. Walking side by side through the courtyard, the woman praises the boy for making her bag some serious cash, and he returns the compliment, saying the credit went to her awesome intuition. Taking full advantage of the proximity, the superior suggestively leans against the young man's shoulder, whispering that she plans to hand out some highly special rewards to him during the night. Saying goodbye in a highly seductive way, the elder leaves, warning him they will see each other later, while the prisoner Lanji just lets out a jealous huff in the back. Night falls over the luxurious leadership residence, but the silence is quickly broken by murmurs coming from inside the bedroom, demanding that the scoundrel stop his actions. Leaning over the girl on the mattress, Yejung gently holds her face and asks sarcastically if she already gave up on recovering her lost power that incredibly fast. Clutching the sheet in pure embarrassment, Lanji tries to justify to herself that she is putting up with this highly awkward situation solely to gain strength and save her master. Casting the joking aside, the young man reflects darkly on his flaws, fully aware that if the veteran's magic hadn't been compatible with his own, he would have terribly lost that fight. Determined to never face a tight spot again, he concludes he needs to use every single available resource to skyrocket his cultivation. Right when the massive wooden door of the quarters suddenly swings wide open. Stepping into the bedroom, Elder TMI lets out a mocking laugh, questioning why the brand new hall master is still using such a basic method to train. The sudden appearance makes the young girl let out a startled scream in the bed. Hurriedly fixing himself on the mattress, the boy is completely surprised by the woman's unexpected visit and asks what on earth she is doing there at this hour. Overflowing with malice, the superior plays around, asking if he already forgot she promised to deliver a highly special night reward, leaving the young guy confused about her true intentions. Without a single bit of ceremony, the female warrior begins undoing the ties of her official attire, revealing her crystal, clear intentions for the night. Displaying stunning curves under the half-light, Tiami approaches suggestively, announcing she is going to teach him a legendary energy harmonization method for cultivation. Far away from there, in the isolated environment of the virtual space, the sound of dragging chains echoes through the dark prison room. Bound to the wall, the great leader Bai Ningbing hears the drama outside and blushes violently in pure rage, cursing absolutely all of them for daring to disrespect her by forcing her to listen to such absurd things. When the day finally dawns, both female warriors are still sleeping completely exhausted in the bed, while the hero focuses entirely on his spiritual meditation on the bedroom floor. Radiating a powerful, glowing green aura, he opens his eyes, highly satisfied to note that the brand new advanced technique yielded an effect way beyond his wildest expectations. Overflowing with energy from his freshly reached limit, the protagonist leaves the quarters and walks through the base's long corridors, completely ready to assume his definitive leadership role. First thing in the morning, the system beeps, alerting Ye Zheng about the presence of someone nearby radiating in highly intense hostility. Right then, an attractive woman pops up at the doorway holding a breakfast tray and calls him Hall Master in a highly respectful way. Stepping into the room, she explains she prepped the meal specially for him to celebrate his brand new rank. Giving a sly smirk, our MC mentally asks himself if this woman is exactly who the danger alert was talking about. The blue screen quickly reveals Qian Feiyu's stats, showing she used to use her half-brother Zhao Kui's influence to mistreat the weak. Analyzing that her anger is currently at 50%, he perfectly understands the reason for the hatred, since he literally just defeated her brother. The young man then asks if absolutely everyone here is this polite, and she replies with her head low that she solely wishes to serve the new master with her entire heart. Holding up one of the sweets from the tray, he casually questions if she was the one who personally prepped those snacks. Breaking into a cold sweat and avoiding eye contact, the girl stammers, spinning a lie that she just grabbed the food from the cafeteria because it looked super appetizing. Instantly, the system reveals that the sweet contains a lethal poisonous plant capable of putting a permanent end to a person in 15 minutes. At that moment, Xiaolanji wakes up in the bed, rubbing her eyes in a totally lazy way after the wild night they just had. Showing off her curves in a cheeky outfit, she mocks him, asking how he has the nerve to question the reason why she wakes up so late. Finding the absolute perfect moment, Ye Zheng invites the girl to join them and try out the sweets the brand new disciple brought over. Celebrating on the inside, he deduces Lanji's magical constitution will detect the poison on the spot, helping push the newbie's hatred straight to the absolute limit. Grabbing the food without suspecting a thing, Lanji catches the scent at that exact same millisecond and realizes in pure shock that the item is loaded with lethal poison. Staring down at the food, Lanji takes a quick moment to reflect if the protagonist's end wouldn't be an awesome thing to free her from this situation. However, she decides to act and furiously questions the newbie, demanding to know if she was truly the one who brought over those poisoned sweets. Shoving the disciple against the table, Lanji orders the woman to eat her very own trap, since she had the absolute audacity to bring it. Rubbing the sweet right up against the guilty girl's mouth, she asks in a threatening tone what the reason is for her not wanting to open her mouth to try it. Completely terrified and breaking into a cold sweat, Qian Feiyu stammers without managing to form a single sentence while holding the dangerous food. The panel quickly alerts him that Lanji's correction climbed to 80%, making the hero flash a victorious smile for being right on the edge of fully taming the girl. As a sweet reward for this breakthrough, the system delivers an evolution of his magical body, placing total focus on the wood element. Using his brand new hidden power, Ye Zheng steps right between the two, asking for calm, and pretends to believe in the total innocence of the envious disciple. Leaving both women completely, utterly shocked, he takes a bite out of the poisoned sweet straight to her face, without showing a single shred of worry. Grabbing his clothes in pure panic, Lanji calls him an absolute lunatic, and warns him desperately that he is seriously going to lose his life for eating that. With her eyes tearing up, the servant questions what will become of her destiny if he ends up checking out in such a stupid way. Faking severe discomfort, the young man complains that his stomach is swelling up, making the newbie celebrate in her head, certain her plan worked perfectly. All of a sudden, a colossal green energy explodes from his body, and the young guy shouts that the power is overflowing for a massive breakthrough. Radiating a powerful aura, the interface confirms he just broke straight through to the 7th level of Foundation establishment. Completely unable to believe the absolute absurdity, Feiyu hears the master ironically thank her for that snack, helping upgrade his strength. Overflowing with his entire greenish glow, the protagonist reveals that his brand new constitution renders any poison of this type completely, totally useless. The newbie shakes in pure terror when the master states he is highly satisfied with the snack, deciding to make her his personal servant from this exact moment forward. Firmly holding the girl, He whispers incredibly close to her face that her brand new duties include even sharing the bed with him. Giving her a cheeky slap, the young man orders her to go gather every single member of the hall immediately for an important alert. The system reports that Feiyu's hatred climbed to 60%, still lacking a bit before the virtual capture can be unlocked. Watching the woman run away terrified across the courtyard, Yizheng smiles maliciously, planning to make her his very next correction target. Elder Tianmei pops up at the doorway wearing a skin-tight outfit, commenting in a joking tone about his wild energy first thing in the morning. Caressing the leader's face, he asks if she is jealous and explains the disciple simply tried to poison him. Evaluating the plate on the table, the female warrior comments that the girl's methods were a bit too direct and highly amateur. Turning her back to leave, Tianmei warns him he has total authority to resolve this minor problem all by himself. Flashing a seductive smile, the superior advises the young man to show off his entire cruelty in public to completely submit the group all at once. Displaying a dominating look, the hero guarantees he will make it crystal clear to absolutely everyone who is the boss of this block now. A short time later, the immense main alchemy hall is already totally packed with students awaiting their orders. The members whisper, utterly outraged by the newbie wanting to lecture them, remembering that their resentment over veteran Zha's defeat has officially not passed. The yapping halts the absolute exact millisecond. Yizheng steps into the facility, radiating a crushing aura and shutting everyone's mouths for good. Walking straight to the center of the room, surrounded by the massive furnaces, the brand new leader point, blank questions if absolutely everyone is present. He warns them past grudges were completely forgiven with the former master's end, guaranteeing pure peace as long as they get the job done right. However, the hero's eyes glow blood red as he threatens to punish without a shred of mercy anyone who attempts to plot something behind his back. The spiritual pressure released by the young man is so completely oppressive that the warriors begin breaking into a cold sweat, totally paralyzed by pure fear. Taking full advantage of the silence, he decrees that due to the delays caused by the recent war, absolutely everyone there will have to double their production goal. Panic spreads fast, with the students complaining that the brand new requirement is way too exhausting and will leave zero free time for anything else. One of the subordinates musters up the courage and questions in a highly provocative tone if the brand new master is just going to stand there with his arms crossed watching them suffer. In response to the direct insult, multiple heavy furnaces begin to hover all around the boy, wrapped in glowing green spiritual flames. Displaying complete, absolute magical control, the protagonist announces he will manufacture the exact same required amount, but will need nothing more than 15 minutes to finish it. Surrounded by 10 magical cauldrons in midair, he orders the crowd of gossips to pay close attention to what is about to happen. Joining his hands in a brilliant seal, Yizheng announces he is going to teach them the correct, definitive way to manufacture the potions. Firing off beams of glowing green light, he heats up every single heavy furnace simultaneously in a perfectly balanced manner. With lightning-fast, precise movements, the hero hurls handfuls of herbs straight into the floating containers without missing a single one. The intense magic makes the metal lids shake violently while the alchemy process takes place at an absolute absurd speed. Witnessing that absolute madness, the warriors think it is a cheap trick, since manipulating 10 cauldrons at the exact same time would demand an incredibly high power level. Sweating from pure nervousness and clutching her own clothes, Feiyu mentally decrees that a manufacturing job like that is something totally impossible. Ignoring their utter disbelief entirely, the master explains the secret doesn't lie in brute force, but rather in a deep understanding of nature. Manipulating the energy through his fingers, he keeps the flames alive and perfectly calibrated for each specific type of herb. The protagonist overflows with arrogance, stating that plant manipulation is exactly the single greatest specialty he possesses. Focused entirely on the results, he dictates the steps out loud, ordering the form to condense and the potion's spirit to be refined. The inside of the furnaces pulses with a vibrant light, showing the chemical mixture hit absolute structural perfection without a single error. In a grand, luminous crash, the lids fly into the air, revealing dozens of small, brilliant spheres popping out of the metal. The golden potions hover through the hall, radiating a pure, majestic aura that instantly enchants every single person present. Collecting the rain of magical items in the palm of his hand, Yizheng displays the prize and decrees the job was wrapped up with total success. Sensing the rare aroma flood the room, the crowd drops into absolute, total shock as they realize every single batch came out with a supreme level of quality. Completely marveled by the historic feat, Lanji widens her eyes, admiring the absolute perfection of the elixirs crafted that incredibly fast. Observing the hero's unshackable posture, the servant internally wonders if the man is a cruel monster or an incomparable genius. The digital screen silently emerges, reporting that the girl's correction finally jumped to the incredible mark of 90%. Realizing her growing loyalty, the young guy flashes a sly smile, celebrating that his very first devoted follower is right on the edge of being born. Reclaiming his authority before the dumbstruck crowd, he glares at everyone, asking if there is still anyone left there with the sheer courage to complain about his service. Completely shocked by the demonstration of power, the disciples drop to their knees on the floor and guarantee they are now totally convinced of the new master's skills. Cowering right in the middle of the group, Qianfeiyu lowers her head in complete silence, realizing there is absolutely no way to compete with that level of talent. Breaking into a cold sweat and trembling with fear, the newbie understands she heavily underestimated the boy, and that her situation inside could get incredibly complicated. Regaining complete control of the situation, Yejung orders the rest of the students to keep refining the elixirs and commands the girl to accompany him immediately to the inner hall. Walking calmly down the corridor, the protagonist coldly warns her that she must serve him incredibly well while he gets some rest. Furious at having to obey right in front of everyone, the disciple curses him out in her head, believing she is being humiliated entirely on purpose, pushing her hostility up to 65% in the system. Watching the scene from a distance, Leader Huang Tianmai flashes an approving smile and comments to herself that her little master is managing things in a highly decent way. Evaluating the boy's massive potential, the elder concludes that with just a little more time, he could truly turn into someone she can genuinely trust for real. Far away from there, the scene shifts to the majestic secret chamber of the Grand Master, located at the Heewon sect's main headquarters. Wrapped in a raging storm of red spiritual energy, Supreme Leader Xiaoyazi focuses intensely on his isolated cultivation. All of a sudden, the dark aura plummets and the veteran grinds his teeth in pure indignation, demanding to know the reason why he still can't break through to the next level. Taking out his absolute fury, he glares at the prisoner Bai Ningbing, who is bound by reddish magic, and curses her out, calling her absolute useless trash. Brutally grabbing the woman by her hair, the leader questions how the absorption effects can be this tiny, even though she is a major faction master. Crying in sheer pain and utter despair, the fake leader begs once again, trying to explain that she is absolutely not the real Bai Ningbing, but the veteran completely ignores her excuses and lands a violent slap right across her face, utterly revolted by the fact that the hostage lacks the courage to admit her true identity, even at this critical moment. Stepping back a bit, the Supreme Master evaluates that he urgently needs to upgrade his level, since he completely refuses to lose to the old powerhouses of the enemy faction. Determined to hunt for another alternative, he calls out for Ruyan, and promptly one of his most fiercely loyal followers emerges, confirming her presence. With a dark expression, the leader orders the disciple to command Hong Tianmei to return to the main base in a maximum of 3 days to personally cooperate on a highly critical matter. Without questioning her master's orders for a single second, the servant immediately agrees and goes running to complete the mission. All alone in the darkness, the old man flashes a sadistic smile and concludes that elder's special charm genetics are his one and only viable option to score the power breakthrough he so deeply desires. Back at the frontline camp, pure tranquility reigns inside the quarters of the Alchemy Hall's new master, taking full advantage of his new leadership rank. Yejung receives a relaxing back massage and calmly instructs exactly where the servant should apply more pressure. Noticing the girl's total lack of enthusiasm, the protagonist complains about the service, telling her to use way more force, and mockingly asks if she forgot to eat a single thing today. Bringing drinks out on a tray right behind them, Xiao Lanji takes an outraged sigh and reflects on how that young man is a true master in the art of treating people terribly. Noticing the prisoner's train of thought, he turns his face and suggestively points out that they should swap places so Lanji can do the massage, making the girl back away in terror and reject the offer on the spot. Turning his attention back to the newbie, the hero maliciously lifts her face and praises the fine work, confessing he is already almost tempted to transform her into his exclusive cultivation item. Grinding her teeth in pure, silent rage, Qianfeiyu secretly promises that next time she will use a way more potent poison to put a definitive, permanent end to his life. The system promptly reports the girl's hostility has climbed straight to 70%, making the young guy flash a victorious smile for being so incredibly close to taming her. The relaxed vibe is suddenly broken when the wooden door is violently flung open, revealing a highly rushed elder Tianmei, Sitting up on the bed, the protagonist is left completely unable to comprehend the invasion and questions the reason for their appearing, like that without a single shred of prior warning. Without giving any explanations, the female warrior urgently grabs the young man's arm and tells him he is coming with her, leaving the boy totally confused about their destination. With a dark, highly worried expression, she reveals that the Great Supreme Master has ordered her immediate return to the main base within a strict limit of just 3 days.